boom, boom. The Divine Realm tablet fell straight down, pressing into the center of the crack and pressing on the Firebird's influence, making a huge roar. The sky kept shaking, and the black cross-shaped crack stopped expanding at this moment. Instead, it shrank slightly. Tang Jie frowned and snorted coldly. "It's useless. If you want to suppress my great void slash, you'll have to use at least half of the power of a 9th-tier profound armament. Otherwise, the only outcome is being devoured." The Divine Realm tablet kept flashing with golden light in the crack, resisting the devouring of the black power. The Firebird also kept flying under it, and circles of flame chi gushed out, as if it was about to break out. The cross-shaped cracks around it also shrank and spread to the Divine Realm tablet. "Humph!" Yunxiao sneered as he performed incantation gestures with both hands. A ray of red light shot straight down, pressing down on the Firebird. The Firebird, which seemed to be about to break free, suddenly became manic and kept flying around, as if it was very afraid and kept dodging. Tang Jie was shocked and his eyes widened in horror. The vermilion bird saber was connected to his life, and although its connection with the sword spirit was not as abnormal as Yunxiao's connection with the demonic dragon, they could still sense each other's emotions through their mind connection. At this moment, the aura coming from the artifact spirit was filled with endless fear and terror. "What's going on? That's a level 9 tool spirit. How could it be afraid?" Tang Jie was stunned for a moment. He had never encountered such a situation before. Generally, when he encountered an opponent, he would completely destroy the opponent's profound level weapon, and it was basically shattered with one slash. The red aura on the Divine Realm tablet directly suppressed the Firebird. Then, what made Tang Jie suck in a breath of cold air was that an invisible force spread out, as if an infinite gravity had appeared at that point. It compressed the surrounding space until it collapsed, and it was actually trying to close the cross-shaped crack. "Your sister. What kind of profound level weapon is this?" Tang Jie was completely dumbfounded. Looking at the crack that was disappearing bit by bit, his mind went blank. It was only then that the surrounding martial artists came back to their senses from the terrifying void slash. They could clearly feel the aura of death gradually dissipating, and all of them felt like they had just survived a disaster. They looked at Yunxiao and the Divine Realm tablet in shock. Could it be another 9th-tier profound armament? Everyone's mind was a little muddled. Even if they were martial emperors, it was rare for many people to see a profound level weapon of this level once in their lives. And today, it seemed to have become a 9th-tier profound armament on display. Apart from shock, they were also filled with joy. At the very least, he was safe now, under the terrifying aura of the vermilion bird saber. Even the courage to fight had been shattered. "Look at you pigheads. This isn't a martial arts competition. Hurry up and do it." Yunxiao gave a loud roar as his energy and primordial chi were consumed at an extremely fast speed. Like drinking water, half of his primordial chi was gone in an instant, and his face turned extremely unsightly. After being shouted at, Bin Jie and the others finally reacted. This was a life and death battle. If it wasn't for the stone tablet's display of its magical power, most of them would have been dead. All of a sudden, everyone used their ultimate moves. Terrifying attacks came from all directions and locked Tang Jie in. "Either you die or I die." Tang Jie was taken aback. Unless there was a Martial Supreme's domain or another great void slash, it would be impossible for 20 to 30 martial emperors to attack at the same time. However, the vermilion bird saber in his hand seemed to be half dead. Not only did most of its spiritual energy dissipate, but its weapon spirit could not be awakened. Ha! Finally, Yunxiao reached his limit. He retracted the Divine Realm tablet, which turned into a beam of light and flew back into his forehead. He took a few steps back in the air before he finally stood up with a pale face. Tang Jie was also about to be swallowed up by the dozens of attacks. "Ring of Heaven Battle Armor! Die!" he shouted in fear. He had never felt the feeling of death since he was born. He had always been the one deciding life and death, but now he knew how terrible and terrifying this feeling was. A blue armor spread out in the air, forming an armor enchantment with his power at the peak of the 9 stars martial emperor realm. Boom, boom, boom. All sorts of powers continuously struck it. Although it caused a huge tremor, it was still blocked one by one. However, the yuan qi in his body was also consumed extremely quickly, and his face turned pale all of a sudden. The surrounding attacks were still constantly blasting, as if they were going to break apart. Tang Jie finally couldn't hold on any longer. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, his entire defense was broken. Then, the light of the blue armor became weaker and weaker. In the midst of fear and despair, he shouted hysterically, "You can't kill me! I am the young master of the Four Extremes sect. If you kill me, none of you will live." When everyone heard this, they were all stunned. Just now, they were only looking for joy and wanted to blast the other party into pieces. Only now did they all come to their senses, and all of them had a hesitant look on their faces. Tang Jie seemed to have seen the hope of survival and hurriedly shouted again, "As long as you let me go, I won't pursue what happened today. I'll treat it as if nothing happened." "Do you believe him?" Yun Xiao sneered. "Do you believe him? If you let him go, do you think you'll be able to survive the next time he brings a few martial sovereigns to the Gentle Song Forest?" Yun Xiao's words sent a chill down everyone's spine. No matter how they thought about it, they felt that there was no chance of survival. Their eyes immediately gleamed with a fierce light. Since they could not live, killing one was enough. Boom! Finally, Tang Jie's armor completely lost its light and flew back into his body. Countless attacks fell down, directly blasting him from the air and smashing him into the ground. A large amount of dust rushed up, and a terrible pit appeared below. "Everyone stop!" Yun Xiao cried out. He was really afraid that Tang Jie would die. Firstly, he couldn't exchange for the key. Secondly, he really didn't dare to offend the Four Extremes sect. If it was just the death of a branch head, it wouldn't matter. The Four Extremes sect would not pay too much attention to it. He was afraid that it would be a martial sovereign next time, and there might be more than one of them. As the dust settled, the huge pit was revealed. Tang Jie was lying in it, covered in blood and flesh. He seemed to be still alive, and one of his legs was shaking. Yun Xiao walked down from the sky with a smile and said, "I told you to be obedient. Children get beaten easily if they don't listen." Tang Jie's moans of pain came from the big pit. Although he was strong enough and his equipment was powerful enough, this was the first time he was in such a life-and-death battle. He was lacking in experience and other aspects. All of a sudden, Yun Xiao stopped, and his pupils constricted. He could not take another step forward, as if his body was filled with lead. A black figure suddenly appeared in front of him, standing beside Tang Jie. He was wrapped in a black robe, like a ghost, exuding a cold air. "Mr. You!" Yun Xiao's face was extremely unsightly as he gnashed his teeth and said, word by word, it was Mr. Yu, who he had fought with in the cave. His aura seemed to be stronger than before, and he had appeared here without a sound. "Mr. Yu" gave Yun Xiao a complicated look, then pointed at Tang Jie and said, "I'm taking this person away." Yun Xiao did not speak, but just stared at the man. "Who do you think you are? You think you can take her away just like that?" The leader of the hunter mercenary group was the first to rush up and shouted angrily, "If you want to take him away, you'll have to ask all of us first." Mr. Yu turned a blind eye to the man, but looked at Yun Xiao and said, "If I want to take him away, none of you can stop me. I don't want to be your enemy for the time being." Yun Xiao's face turned pale. The man was telling the truth. With his soul power as an 8th-tier alchemist, his physical body, which was even stronger than his supreme tyrant body, and the 9th-tier mystic artifact, even a martial supreme might not be able to stop him. The leader of the Hunter Mercenary Corps was the first to rush up. He wanted to claim credit. But he was ignored directly. Feeling that he had lost face in front of Yun Xiao, he flew into a rage and sneered, "What a joke! Do you think you're a martial honor? And no one could stop him. Today, I'll be like you, the young master of the Four Extremes sect. Brothers, attack!" He wasn't a reckless man. He had already sensed the other party's cultivation base with his spiritual consciousness while he was talking. It seemed that the other party was only a 7 stars martial emperor. Therefore, he rushed forward without any fear. The rest of the members of the Hunter Mercenary Corps also wanted to show off in front of Xianxia. One by one, they rushed forward. There were 7 of them in total, and they attacked Mr. Yu from 7 different directions. Mr. Yu was still staring at Xianxia with no emotion on his face, as if he were waiting for his answer. The leader of the Hunter Mercenary Corps was even more furious as he shouted, "Gu Star Art, die!" Mr. Yu finally moved, but it was not his body. His black robe began to flutter as if there was a breeze. Xianxia's pupils constricted as he said in horror, "Not good! Be careful!" Lu Li's eyes turned into blood-red crescents, and he launched a powerful spiritual attack. The space twisted, and the spiritual attack spread to Mr. Yu. The fluttering of Mr. Yu's black robe was a sign of the release of mental power, which he had caught. With the other party's spiritual power attack, it would be easy to subdue the 7 of them. Only then did he hurriedly take action, wanting to save her. Humph! Mr. Yu snorted disdainfully. The space around him began to twist and change rapidly, hindering Xianxia's spiritual power. Not only was it difficult for him to advance, but it was also backfired. The 7 martial royal realm experts who had attacked him became absent-minded along with the distorted space. They floated in the air and disappeared in the end. Eft! Xianxia grunted. He had been injured. His eyes were filled with fierce anger as he glared at the other party. His cultivation base, physical body, soul power, and profound-level weapons were all suppressed by his opponent. He had never encountered such a depressing thing before. He was completely at his wit's end. Where is he? The surrounding cultivators were all stunned, revealing a stunned look. 7 living people had just disappeared into thin air in front of their eyes. Each and every one of them found it difficult to understand, and their minds were filled with question marks. Mr. Yu was not afraid of Xianxia's gaze at all. He snorted coldly and said, "What you just used should be Gu Feiyang's pupil technique. Moon deficiency, right?" Humph! Gu Feiyang was known as the #1 in spiritual attacks. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry would compete to imitate his pupillary abilities. That Gu Yuexing thinks that he can rival Gu Feiyang just because he has the immemorial Heaven's Eye. He's nothing but a piece of shit. Let me give you a piece of advice. Gu Feiyang's major eye bloodline techniques are all based on his extremely strong understanding of art. Only when one's usage of soul power had reached the acme of perfection could one use it at will, changing heaven and earth, and changing time and space. If you're lucky, you can succeed a few times, but if you're unlucky, you'll be devoured by that uncontrollable force before the other party even has to make a move. Xianxia was taken aback, and his eyes were filled with horror. He didn't expect the other party to have such a deep understanding of his pupillary abilities. However, he had no impression of this person. Although most of the monster race was trapped in the 5-Cloud Mountain, there were still a few scattered monster forces on the heavenly Martial continent. He had also seen some powerful demon refinement masters before. Back in the Sea of Soul Formation, he had fought with a 9th-rank demon refinement master, and that was how he managed to refine the Star-Slash sword. However, Mr. Yu had no impression of him at all. In Mr. Yu's eyes, Xianxia's horrified expression made him think that he had hit his soft spot. He snorted and said, "I'll be taking her away. You should focus on your cultivation. I'll come and find you again." After saying that, he waved his hand and the space distorted again. Gradually, he and Tang Jie disappeared from everyone's sight. Bin Jie and the others quickly surrounded him and looked around, but they couldn't find anyone. "Where are the 7 people from the Hunter Mercenary Corps?" Zhou Xiang asked in shock. Yunxiao's face was ashen. He had worked hard for nothing, and the fruit of his victory had been stolen by someone else. Those 7 people were directly swept into the void turbulence by his mental power. "I'm afraid they're doomed." "What?" Everyone's expression changed drastically. In the void turbulence, if one was lucky, they could still survive and wait for an opportunity to break out. If they were unlucky and encountered all sorts of energy attacks, even a Martial Supreme would die without a doubt. And the vast majority of those who were swept into the void turbulence ended up with bad luck. How powerful is his mental power? Bin Jie cried out in shock. He was able to drag 7 martial emperors into the void turbulence in one go. Zhou Xiang's face also turned pale. He felt a wave of fear just thinking about it. Who is that person? You seem to know him, Captain. He is Mr. Yu from the Skeleton Mercenary Corps, an 8th-tier Supreme Alchemist. Yun Xiao sighed. What? Zhou Xiang was shocked. It's actually him. Bin Jie was also shocked and said with cold sweat, 8th-tier Supreme Alchemist Master? Captain Cloud Sky, are you sure? The people behind him were also shocked beyond words. An 8th-tier Great Alchemist was a supreme existence that could only be encountered by some super forces or in the Sea of Soul formation. How could they appear out of thin air in the Lightsong woodland, and how could they be from the Skeleton Mercenary Corps? If the Skeleton Mercenary Group had such a character, they should have been able to unify the softly singing woodland a long time ago. An 8th-tier alchemist was enough to attract some martial emperors to work for him. Although the Skeleton Mercenary Group was one of the 3 major mercenary groups, they had always been relatively low-key. He rarely participated in the battle between the Storm Mercenary Group and the Rookie Mercenary Group, but he didn't expect them to hide their strength so deeply. The people from the Mixed Mercenary Group wiped their cold sweat and turned their eyes to Yun Xiao. This team leader was not someone to be trifled with. Not only did he dare to kill the young master of the 4 Extremes sect, he had also used 3 9th-tier profound armaments. That was something that even a martial emperor might not have. In terms of identity and status, this mysterious captain was probably even more powerful than the 4 Extremes sect and 8th-tier alchemists. Everyone was making wild guesses, even Bin Jie and Zhou Xiang, but their attitude toward Yun Xiao had become very respectful. Captain Yun Xiao, what do we do now? Should we immediately ask for help from the other teams, surround the Skeleton Mercenary Group, and force them to hand over the person? Bin Jie asked. Although he did not know why Yun Xiao had captured Tang Jie, judging from the series of actions just now, the captain was the kind of person who could not wait to make a big fuss. Now that he had suffered a loss from the Skeleton Mercenary Corps, a war was probably going to break out. But Yun Xiao only felt a little worried before he shook his head and said, "Forget it. This matter ends here." Bin Jie was stunned and couldn't believe his ears. He had been acting so arrogantly all this while and even dared to make a move against the 4 Extremes sect. How could he just let the Skeleton Mercenary Group go? The rest of the people were also a little dumbfounded. Could it be that this captain also felt fear and knew what fear was? Yun Xiao took in everyone's eyes and chuckled. Everyone, go back. What's going to happen next isn't something you can participate in. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, but they were soon overjoyed. When the Immortals fought, the mortals suffered. He could finally jump out of this muddy water. The young masters of the 4 Extremes sect and 8th-tier alchemists who had just appeared were indeed not people that they could join. One by one, they suppressed their joy and took their leave. Suddenly, a series of rumbling sounds came from the sky in the distance. It felt like the pressure of heaven and earth, pressing down on everyone's heart. Everyone felt extremely uncomfortable and uncomfortable. Could it be that something has happened to Lord Mu Wu? Bin Jie was shocked and looked at the sky in the distance in horror. The battle between 2 martial honorables was not something they could interfere with. The power of a domain could not be resisted without a great sacred art. Yun Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he suddenly said with great joy, "Mu Wu has broken through. Every time a martial supreme breaks through a star, it will produce an extremely strong pressure of heaven and earth. Everyone quickly follow me. Under this kind of pressure, you can feel the martial essence of the universe, which will be very beneficial to your cultivation. To sense the 8 desolations' martial intent?" After the great shock, everyone was indescribably excited, and they all rushed into the distance like a swarm of bees. The sky was filled with all kinds of energy, constantly scattering and dissipating in the air. The entire sky was like a torn cloth, with different colors and lights everywhere. It was dark and gloomy, as if it had been patched up, full of holes. One could see the intensity of the battle between the two. Just the aura that remained in the surroundings was enough to shake one's soul. Mu Wu stood quietly in the air, no longer as graceful as before. His upper body was bare, revealing a shocking injury. His chest had been pierced through, but he was not dead. His eyes were clear. Elder Yu's figure had already disappeared, and the outcome was clear. Boom, boom, boom. The sky continued to shake, and the power of the natural order from this world seemed to gradually appear. Under this huge force, the remaining energy quickly dissipated. The terrifying injuries on Mu Wu's body were healing at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. The laws of heaven and earth are recondensing his domain and physical body. If he doesn't cultivate now, when will he? Xianxia cried out as he sat down cross-legged and began to feel the power of laws. Although he had long surpassed Mu Wu in terms of martial will, the heaven-earth law that was triggered when a martial honor advanced was still quite rare. With his experience, it was enough for him to make full use of this power of law. As a cultivator constantly increased their yuan qi, they had to gain insight into the laws of the heaven and earth they were in. As long as one worked hard enough, one would be able to accumulate vital qi to a certain extent. However, that kind of comprehension of laws was very difficult to achieve without great opportunities and wisdom. This was also a very crucial moment for Mu Wu. In the battle with Elder Yu, he had finally broken through the shackles of the bottleneck and stepped into the two-star martial supreme realm. The regulations of the heaven and earth had descended, and he had to comprehend them as much as possible. How much he could comprehend would have a direct impact on the improvement of his strength and future advancements. This was the second time he had comprehended the laws of heaven and earth, and he had made a lot of preparations for it, so he was soon deeply immersed in it. He didn't feel anything even when his injuries were gradually recovering, because he didn't want to waste a single second. The cultivators below also revealed a look of joy as they immersed themselves in the rule force. Most of them were martial emperors, so they did not have the right to enjoy such treatment. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In those super forces, every time a martial honor powerhouse broke through, they would gather the outstanding disciples of the sect to comprehend it. Every time a martial venerable broke through to the next star, the rules of heaven and earth that descended would also become stronger and stronger. After reaching the rank of a martial supreme, even a martial supreme would find it difficult to withstand the power of the rules of heaven and earth that would descend upon them with every breakthrough. It was rumored that if one could completely comprehend all the laws of heaven and earth, one would be able to control the power of an entire world and step into the immortal realm. However, this was only a legend. After all, there were records of peerless figures who were suspected to have reached godhood in the history of the continent, but no one could verify them. Xianxia completely relaxed his mind and let the laws of heaven and earth wash through his body and meridians. His comprehension of the power of a world was far above this bit of heaven-earth law, and his physical body was also able to withstand the pressure. He didn't have to worry about any side effects at all, so he could completely integrate his mind into the law and enjoy the baptism to his heart's content. Many other martial royal realm experts were drenched in cold sweat. They were struggling to hold on, but they gritted their teeth and refused to give up. If he lost this opportunity once, he might not have a second chance in his life. And the benefits it would bring him would far exceed several decades of bitter cultivation. Boom! A faint muffled sound came from inside Xianxia's body as he was promoted by 1 star. However, the power of the natural order did not stop, and it continued to wash his meridians. A large amount of primordial qi circulated around his body under the push of the natural order, and finally gathered in his dantian. The sea of qi in his dantian was getting stronger and stronger. Even the few 9th-tier profound armaments floating above it were affected and started to glow slightly, especially the cauldron of mountain and river, which had never been used before. It seemed to be showing signs of movement. Ever since he had obtained the cauldron, he had never used it. When he was refining a profound-level weapon, Xianxia's first choice was this cauldron of mountain and river, but no matter what he did, he could not refine it at all. In the end, he could only give up and choose to forge the dynasty bell and the demonic sky armor. Under the suppression of the laws of the heaven and earth, the cauldron of mountain and river was also slowly revolving. This ghost cauldron, although it's not a transcendent grade, it's still far superior to ordinary 9th-tier profound armaments. No wonder it's used to store the breathing earth and suppress Dijia. After being slightly distracted, Yun Xiao returned his mind to his cultivation, ignoring the changes in the purple cauldron of mountains and rivers. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, he laughed out loud, and all the rule force in the world dissipated. Mu Wu was still covered in blood, but he was full of energy and had a shocking aura. He had already gained great benefits. He looked down and snorted coldly. You guys sure know how to take advantage of the situation. Who allowed you to cultivate in my bed? That extremely powerful domain suddenly spread out, and all the martial artists were caught in it. Their faces changed drastically, and they looked terrified. Yun Xiao was not afraid of the domain's influence at all. He stood up and said with a smile, "Brother Mu Wu, please calm down. Since it's their first offense, I'll just pay them some primeval stones." All the people in the mercenary group had black lines on their faces. Your sister, you were the one who asked us to come here to cultivate. Otherwise, no matter how bold you were, you wouldn't dare to enjoy the rules of heaven and earth by the side of a martial supreme. Humph! Mu Wu snorted and said, "I'll let you off this time for the sake of Captain Yun Xiao." He snorted coldly, causing everyone to shiver in their hearts. Then, his figure flashed and disappeared in the air. The power of the martial venerables domain also gradually dissipated, and everyone slowly recovered from their panic. The higher one went, the more obvious it was. When you were below the rank of martial emperor, it might be normal for you to challenge those of a higher rank. However, the rank of martial honor was a hurdle. It was all because of your comprehension of the rules of heaven and earth. The more you comprehended, the more powerful the power of heaven and earth you could use. Even if you were a peak 9 stars martial emperor, no matter how awesome you were, it would still be difficult for you to contend with a 1-star martial supreme. This was the reason why Tang Jie did not dare to fight with a martial venerable even though he had the refined vermilion bird saber. Yun Xiao looked at the crowd and said with a smile, "All right, it's fine now. Don't be afraid, everyone. Just pay 10 million medial-grade primordial stones each." 10 million? It's still 1,000 yuan. Everyone was stunned. They were even more frightened than when they were in the domain. Yun Xiao's face darkened as he said angrily, 1,000 yuan? Who said that? Stand out. I've saved your lives, and you're asking me to pay 1,000 mid-grade primordial stones. Whoever said that, step forward. I'll give you 1,000 yuan and take your life. Everyone was so scared that they all retreated. No one dared to take a step forward. Yun Xiao shook his head and sighed. That's why it's said that it's hard to be a good person in this world. If I had let Mu Wu slap you to death just now, nothing would have happened. Now, not only was he alive, but he could also enjoy the cultivation of the rules of heaven and earth. It was only 10 million medial-grade primordial stones, and you still wanted to bargain with him. Zhou Xiang, take note, if there are any who haven't sent their primeval stones up before dark, pass the name list to Mu Wu and let him handle it. Everyone's expression changed drastically. They looked at the sky and anxiously thought about how to get the primordial stones. If Mu Wu really came looking for him, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to explain himself. Moreover, he had gained great benefits from the baptism of the rules of heaven and earth. Even if he had to pay 10 million mid-grade primordial stones, it would be worth it. Such an opportunity could not be bought with money. Everyone was in a hurry to go back and gather money, so they quickly took their leave. At this moment, a few figures flew over. They were the people from the merchant union, including Hong Yi and some mercenaries with weaker cultivation. Those who had chased after Tang Jie just now were all martial emperors and above. During the battle between Mu Wu and Elder Yu, they had also hidden far away. Only when there was no more movement did they dare to come out. Captain Yun Xiao, where's Tang Jie? Shun Li was not in a good position to ask, but she was anxious. Hong Yi immediately asked, her beautiful eyes also looking around. An expert from the skeleton mercenary corps came out of nowhere and saved Tang Jie. Yun Xiao said in distress. He saved him. Saved? Hong Yi's expression changed greatly and she said angrily, how is that possible? There are so many of you. Could it be that the other party is a martial honor? Yun Xiao gave her a cold look and snorted. What's it to you whether or not he's been rescued? Auntie Hong, you look very anxious. Jingnan also frowned as he stared at Hong Yi suspiciously. He still could not figure out why Yunxiao was targeting the Four Extremes sect, and why Tang Jie, as the young master of the Four Extremes sect, was in the Lightsong Forest. However, there must be a big secret that he didn't know about. It seemed that Hong Yi knew about this secret. His eyes were shining. Hong Yi also realized that she had lost her composure. With an angry look on her face, she winked at Yunxiao and said in a sweet voice, "Io. It's because I saw that everyone worked so hard and even let the rabbit run away in the end. It's a waste of effort and I feel that it's a pity." Xinli's expression was also very ugly, and no one knew what she was thinking. "Old man Xiao is unparalleled in loyalty and righteousness," Yunxiao said with a smile. "But he suffered a disaster. This is all I can do to help you. After all, the skeleton mercenary group strength is not below our rookie mercenary group. You can handle the rest by yourselves." Jingnan cursed all his ancestors in his heart, but his face was still stern as he said, "Captain Yunxiao is a righteous man. He has a deep affection for the Merchant Union." Xunli, on the other hand, was stunned, and a bright light flashed in her eyes. When she saw the smile in Yunxiao's eyes, she suddenly understood. She understood what Yunxiao was implying. Tang Jie was from the Four Extremes sect, and they could not capture him in public. However, now that Tang Jie was in the skeleton mercenary group, the Empyrean One Pavilion could attack them directly. Besides, Yunxiao also knew that since His Excellency Tianyi had given such an important order, it was impossible for him not to send experts to the Lightsong Forest. It was just that it was not convenient for him to attack the Four Extremes sect. If he only attacked the skeleton mercenary group, he would have no scruples. Xunli heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Captain Yunxiao, you're a young man. I hope you can be a distinguished guest of Empyrean One Pavilion. There will be a chance." Yunxiao chuckled. "There will be a chance. Now that the western part of the city has just been unified, your Chamber of Commerce must also operate well under the guidance of Miss Ling Er." Xunli and Jingnan's eyelids twitched, and their anger disappeared in a flash. They laughed and said, "Naturally, naturally." After that, the two of them each had their own thoughts and left. Hong Yi also put on a coquettish look as she drew a line on Yunxiao's chest with her white fingers and said in a sweet voice, "You're a bad person, forgetting the old with the new." When she turned to leave, she did not forget to give Ding Ling Er a resentful look. Ding Ling Er's murderous eyes shot into her body, as if she wanted to kill her with her eyes. Hong Yi sneered and turned to leave. Facing Ding Ling Er's cold gaze, Yunxiao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He pointed in the direction where Hong Yi had left and sneered, "Tisk! She's crazy. Don't mind her." Zhou Xiang took out an iron plate from his ring and handed it to Ding Ling Er. "Miss Ding, this is an iron washboard. He can use it tonight." Ding Ling Er angrily grabbed the washboard and directly hit it on Zhou Xiang. The matter of the city's west immediately spread through the entire Qingge woodland like a whirlwind. For a time, everyone on the streets and in the alleys was talking about it. "You guys didn't watch it. The leaders of the three mercenary groups fought and killed each other in the end. I'll go with you, your sister." "Nonsense. I'm telling you, the four merchant alliances are involved in this. It was a great war between the mercenaries and the merchant union. Even Old Master Qiao died in battle." "No way? Old Master Qiao was dead? Then what about the 4 concubines he married in the first half of the year?" "Don't worry. When Old Master Qiao died, the leader of the Steel Tree mercenary group ran to the Myriad Treasure Store to take care of his concubines. If you don't know, then don't talk nonsense. The war between the mercenaries and the merchant union is only a superficial phenomenon. Do you know what triggered this war? Do you know who is the most important person in this war?" A shrewd-looking man took a sip of tea and stepped on a stool with his eyes wide open. "Who is it?" "I heard that Li Yunxiao, the newly appointed captain of the 8th team of the rookie mercenary group, seems to have played a very important role." "He's not just important." The man slapped his thigh and exclaimed, "This war started because of him." "Ah? So powerful. Hurry up and tell me what happened." "Hee, you don't know? I'll tell you." The shrewd man enjoyed the atmosphere of attention and began to tell his story. Li Yunxiao has an affair with Song Xiong, the leader of the Four Extremes sect, and Halian Xiaohuang has taken a fancy to Li Yunxiao. So he captured him and forced him to be his exclusive property. At this time, Song Xiong had no choice but to offer himself to Old Man Xiao in exchange for support. On the other hand, Jingnan had always been close to Old Master Qiao. The one Xin Li loved was Jingnan's sister. Now that the four merchant alliances are united against a common enemy, Commander Hao Lian is naturally no match for them. At this moment, he signed an alliance with Shun Feng and Chen Chuanjiu to defend against the enemy together. An alliance? What alliance under the city? The three of them have agreed that after the merchant union is defeated, Li Yunxiao will belong to the three of them, and each of them will take turns to enjoy him for a month. TSK. Was Yunxiao that beautiful? So many powerful men like him. Of course, the shrewd man shouted. We'll become gay friends in a fit of anger. We all know how lecherous Commander Hao Lian is. Since Li Yunxiao came, all his harem has lost their color. Motherfucker. How come no one likes me when I'm so handsome? Everyone tidied up their hair indignantly, revealing an expression of someone who had a talent that had not been discovered. This kind of messy story quickly derived into countless versions. Before Yunxiao and the other members of the 8th team returned to the north of the city, it had already spread throughout the entire Soft Song woodland. The fastest thing was definitely gossip. In the corner of the tea house, a man with a delicate face sat. After quietly listening to the shrewd man's story, he gently stuck out the tip of his tongue and licked his bright red lips. He then waved at the shrewd man. The shrewd man originally had his back to this person, but he felt that someone was calling him for no reason. He couldn't help but turn around and walk over. You called me? The shrewd man revealed a vigilant expression. Although the person in front of him had a fair and clean face, he looked very demonic. He was a man and even had red nails. The man covered his mouth and laughed. That's right. Do you think that Li Yunxiao is really that charming? He said. Is she as pretty as I am? Cold sweat appeared on the shrewd man's forehead. Under the charming smile of the demonic man, he felt a cold chill enter his body. He immediately nodded and said, There is no doubt that Li Yunxiao is handsome, but you are also quite beautiful. Really? The man's eyes brightened and he smiled. All right then. Since you're such a licker, I'll let you have it easy today. Eh? Letting me off easy? The smart man revealed a puzzled expression and a question appeared in his mind. He saw the demonic man wave his right hand and his vision blurred for a moment before he gradually lost consciousness. He sat there in a daze. The demonic man's eyes shot out a lustful light. He licked his lips and said softly, You are enjoying countless men in the palace alone, but you sent me out to sell my life. Humph, I didn't expect Yunxiao to be such a beautiful man. If you knew, I'm afraid you would regret it so much that your chrysanthemum would turn green. Ha ha! The demonic man's eyes lit up and became sharp. He gritted his teeth and said, Li Yunxiao, you are my Yuan Soons. He threw down a few gold coins and left with the astute man. The waiter hurriedly went up to collect the gold coins, but he revealed a stunned expression. The yellow coins were undoubtedly gold, but they were not the common kind. There was a terrifying picture of the Grim Reaper drawn on them. In the headquarters of Team 8 in a cultivation room, a powerful force condensed in the air. Luo Yunxiang poured all her strength into her battle axe and struck at the man with all her might. The man stood there quietly. He had not moved since he had come in, and even Luo Yunxiang did not know when he had come in. He was wrapped in a black robe, holding a bloody man in his hand and stepping on a small green demon. The small demon's body kept moving, but it couldn't break free. The red light on the axe revealed the man's face. It was Mr. Yu. His expression was very complicated, and his eyes were turbulent, but they gradually calmed down, turning into an ancient well, just like his state of mind. The battle axe was halfway through its attack when it suddenly froze in the air, unable to move an inch. It was not just the axe. Yunxiang felt that her whole body was shackled by a force. The 9 yang true qi kept rolling in her body, getting stronger and stronger. Even she felt that she could not control it, as if it was going to break out of her body and break through everything. Mr. Yu looked at the power that was flowing out of her body and sighed. It really is Nine Yang genuine qi. Will history repeat itself? A hint of killing intent flashed through his eyes, and his expression became complicated again. Yunxiang was anxious not only because she was being controlled, but also because the force in her body was constantly condensing and stacking, to the point that she could not control it. Mr. Yu suppressed the killing intent in his eyes and said, "Use all your strength. Let me see how strong you are, woman of the divine cloud palace." Under the suppression of the other party, Yunxiang felt the genuine qi in her body surge, breaking through all her meridians and swelling up. A large amount of blood rushed into her brain, and she seemed to be gradually losing consciousness. At this moment, a powerful force that she had never felt before burst out of her body and gathered in her hands. It gradually gathered into a light as dazzling as the sun. She raised her battle axe, and the force that had been holding her back was easily broken, and she slashed down again. Moonfall crow frosty sky. Falling moon heavenly frost. Yunxiang's eyes were bloodshot, and her aura changed. Under the overbearing power, even her battle axe seemed to be unable to withstand it, and it gradually collapsed. The entire cultivation room, which was made of diamond rock, began to crack. It broke open with a loud bang, and countless gravel flew out. Boom! Even though the battle axe was also shattered, the force didn't decrease at all. It hit Mr. Yu's body and emitted a strong light. After Yunxiao returned to the west of the city, he was met with strange looks, as well as envious, jealous, and resentful expressions. Scratching his head, he turned to his men and asked in surprise, "Am I that handsome? Why are there so many people staring at me with envy and jealousy?" He shook his head in distress and sighed. "It's easy to make enemies if you're handsome." Bin Jie and the others snorted coldly and revealed looks of disdain. They raised their chins, carefully touched their hair, and tidied their clothes. Suddenly, a ray of red light shot up in front of them. It was the headquarters of the 8th team. The aura was so strong that it could be felt from thousands of miles away. Zhangyang Qi. Yunxiang? Yunxiao's heart skipped a beat. Is it Yunxiang? That's the headquarters of Team 8. Ding Linger said in surprise. Did she break through? An unpleasant expression flashed across Bin Jie's face as he said solemnly, "That young lady? She's only a martial king. Judging from her aura just now, she's at least a martial grandmaster, right?" Yunxiao also had a bad feeling in his heart. He turned into a beam of light and rushed out while shouting in a deep voice, "Run! Something might have happened." Bin Jie and the others did not dare to be careless either. That place worshipped alchemists who could not be offended. If something went wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable. More than 10 beams of light streaked across the sky, heading toward Team 8's base. In the headquarters of Team 8, a large number of people were immediately alarmed and rushed in the direction of the light. Mr. Yu's eyes were still rippling under the attack of the light. He didn't panic at all, and his face was calm. The power kept hitting his body, but it didn't hurt him at all. "Is this all you've got?" Mr. Yu's eyes were filled with mockery as he said, "Gu Qingqing's successor is only at this level?" His expression relaxed and he sighed. "It seems that I have been too cautious. Lord Li is right, there is no need for anything." However, he took a step forward and a white jade bottle appeared in his hand with a flash of light. There were a few demon clan symbols carved on it, and it was constantly flashing with golden light. After the blow, the genuine qi in Luo Yunxiang's body quickly disappeared, and her eyes became clear again. She watched in horror as Mr. Yu walked up to her and grabbed her by the throat. He struggled and said, "You, what do you want to do?" The cap of the small bottle shot open, and a faint smell of blood seeped out. With a ferocious look on his face, Mr. Yu poured the red liquid in the small bottle into Yunxiang's mouth and said coldly, "You're too weak. I just wanted to help you. As a 9-yang divine body, you should have died. However, it's no longer necessary. I want you to become stronger quickly. Then I'll step on you and completely erase Xianxia Palace from this world." Wash away the shame of the monster race that has been around for thousands of years. No matter how much Xianxia resisted, the blood-red liquid poured into her mouth and flowed down her throat. The cold liquid was really blood. Who are you? Stop. Many warriors suddenly appeared in the surroundings. They were all members of the newbie mercenary group. They quickly understood the situation and drew out their Xian artifacts to attack Mr. Yu. However, the strange thing was that when they were about 10 meters away, they were blocked by an invisible force. No matter how they attacked, they could not break through. Suddenly, an angry roar came from the sky, and a golden light shot down. The divine realm tablet turned into a mountain and fell down. If you dare to hurt her, I swear I'll level the illusionary realm of stars and moon and 5-cloud mountain. Xianxia recognized Mr. Yu at a glance. When he saw that Xianxia was restrained, his anger soared to the sky. After throwing out the divine realm tablet, he immediately slashed down with his sword. The Star-Moon illusory realm was the holy land of the Demon Clan. It was built by the remnants of the Demon Clan's forces and was covered by a huge illusory formation. It absolutely prohibited humans from entering. The 5-Cloud Mountain was the place where the demon race was trapped. No one had been able to break through it for thousands of years. Bin Jie, Zhou Xiang, and Ding Ling also made their moves, and more than 10 powerful forces attacked. Mr. Yu's pupils shrank. He was the first to see the Divine Realm Tablet, and his eyes glowed. Boom! The Divine Realm Tablet also encountered an obstacle about 10 meters away, but it fell down and broke the defense. Mr. Yu snorted and a force spread out from his body. The space around him twisted and spun. The attacks were reversed from 10 meters away and spun around him. The space around him was constantly changing. Except for the Divine Realm Tablet, which was still firmly in the air, the rest of the power was slowly disappearing in the distortion. Humph, you want to devour my Divine Realm Tablet with your spiritual power? You're courting death. Xianxia gave a furious roar and performed the Great Realm Divine technique in his hand. Golden tadpole-like characters fell from the sky and flew into the Divine Realm Tablet. Immediately, a golden light circulated, and the power of the earth spread out, pressing down on Mr. Yu's spiritual domain. Mr. Yu's face changed, and he snorted. He threw away the empty bottle and threw out a punch with his right hand. The extremely overbearing power of the physical body shook the space and blasted toward the Divine Realm Tablet. Bang! The moment the fist force touched the Divine Realm Tablet, Mr. Yu's face changed. Although he knew that it was a supreme-grade profound-level weapon, Xianxia's strength was limited after all. His physical body was strong enough to send him flying with a single punch. Who knew that when he came into contact with it, he would feel an infinite weight, as if the weight of the earth, mountains, and rivers had been condensed, and the momentum was unstoppable. Mr. Yu's fist force crumbled under the infinite weight of the Divine Realm Tablet. With a solemn face, he grabbed Xianxia and jumped away instantly. Boom! The Divine Realm Tablet was directly pressed into the ground, smashing out countless gravel. A beam of light fell as Xianxia stepped onto the Divine Realm Tablet. He performed an incantation gesture with both hands and kept patting the tablet. The golden light seemed to be fusing with him, and the fire cloud mark on his forehead flashed again. The fire territory opened, and with the power of the territory, the true phoenix flame manifested and burned toward Mr. Yu. Kid, you're a little stronger than last time. Mr. Yu's pupils contracted. He could feel how terrifying the true phoenix fire was. He had experienced it in the cave last time. Could even burn through pure power. His gaze darkened, and the tail-light sword suddenly appeared in his hand. A white light cut through the air and slashed out. Boom! The phoenix true flame was directly cut in half by the sword chi, but the sword light's momentum did not decrease, and it seemed to split the space. Xianxia leaped into the air from the Divine Realm Tablet, and the sword beam struck the tablet with a crisp sound. Xianxia leaped over to Mr. Yu in the air, then held the Dynasty Bell high with both hands and smashed it down. Against Mr. Yu, his only advantage was that he had more 9th-tier profound armaments than his opponent, so he had to make full use of it. However, Bin Jie and the others were completely unreliable. Although he was a peak 9 stars martial emperor, without the power of a domain and the use of the rules of heaven and earth, he couldn't resist Mr. Yu's spiritual attack at all. But even so, they still charged down one by one. The members of the newbie mercenary group could not just watch their companion fight a hard battle. "Ripple scamper," Mr. Yu shouted and spread out his spiritual domain. The force within a 100-meter radius reached him instantly. Everyone felt the scenery in front of them change. Not only did their companions all disappear, but they were also no longer standing in the Gentle Song forest. Yunxiao circulated the Great Expansion Divine Technique and struggled to resist the spiritual attack. As the number 1 expert in mental attacks, he felt extremely aggrieved at this moment. He had always been the one to play with others, but now he was no longer the one to go with the wine. At that moment, everyone in the sky, except Yunxiao, looked around in panic, as if they were lost in it. "What?" Mr. Yu's eyes were filled with surprise. "Your spiritual power is very strong. You can actually block my ripple scampering. This Tao Wu, it doesn't seem possible, right?" Yunxiao felt the surrounding mental power constantly squeezing his body, trying to rush into his spiritual ocean. He had a feeling that he could not hold on any longer, and his head was splitting. When he heard the other party's words, he was burning with anger and scolded, "Don't try to act cool in front of me. I'll break your ripple scamper." He gritted his teeth, and the pain in his sea of consciousness seemed to have weakened a little. A crazed look flashed in his eyes, and he slammed his head against the dynasty bell. Dang! His head almost exploded from the impact, but the sound of the bell passed through his body and immediately washed away the power of the ripples. The sound of the bell spread in the air and all the martial artists woke up. Mr. Yu's eyes darkened as he stared at the dynasty bell. His expression kept changing. "This is also a 9th tier profound armament. It seems that your background is really not small, but your cultivation is limited, so even if you have more 9th tier profound armaments, what can you do?" "I don't know what I can do, but at least I'm going to take your life now." With blood all over his head, Yunxiao held the dynasty bell high and smashed it down. Dang! The second bell rang again, and Yunxiao coughed up a mouthful of blood as his body instantly withered. At this time, Bin Jie and the others also attacked one after another. At the same time, they also understood how terrifying their opponents were, so they all used their full strength. The terrifying power struck down along with the dynasty bell. The calmness on Mr. Yu's face finally disappeared, replaced by a serious look. The sound of the dynasty bell reverberated in the air, greatly affecting his ripple scampering. He could not trap so many martial royal realm experts at once. He was only a martial emperor. Although his body was extremely strong, he did not dare to fight against so many experts at the same time. He raised his tail-light sword and stabbed it into the ground. The tip of the sword sank into the ground, and a beam of light emanated from the sword. It bloomed like a flower and formed a defensive barrier that completely enveloped him and Yunxiang. Boom! The dynasty bell was the first to strike the barrier, triggering a powerful spiritual pressure that spread in all directions. Immediately after, Bin Jie and the others' attacks also landed, and all kinds of light scattered at the same time, blinding everyone. Although he had blocked all the attacks, Mr. Yu had also used up a lot of Yuan Qi. It was very difficult for him to use a 9th tier profound level weapon, and his face was slightly pale. After being fed the blood, Yunxiang seemed to have fallen into a coma. However, her body was getting hotter and hotter, and waves of 9 yang true qi were spontaneously rushing up from her body. "Looks like it's almost time." Mr. Yu threw Yunxiang on the ground and said softly, "This is all I can do to help you. It'll depend on your own fortune to what extent you can reach. Divine body of 9 yang, I look forward to the moment you become powerful. Then, you'll become the stepping stone for the rise of our monster race." After saying that, he looked up at Yunxiao in the air again, and a killing intent flashed in his eyes. He had a feeling that this person was even more dangerous to the demon race than the 9 yang divine body. However, on second thought, the killing intent disappeared. "Let's call it a day," Mr. Yu said, then turned into a beam of light and headed to the south of the city. Humph. Do you think my rookie mercenary group can come and go as we please? Muwa's voice came from the air, and Mr. Yu's body froze in mid-air, as if he was trapped by some kind of force. Mr. Yu's face turned serious as he said, "A revered martial artist?" Although he was solemn, he did not panic at all. He slashed with the sword in his hand, and a ray of light immediately split the sky apart. The power that was holding him back disappeared. The spiritual power on his body also spread out, and the surrounding space twisted. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. He really has some skills. Mu Wu's figure appeared in the air. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Mr. Yu in an instant. He punched. The twisted space in the surroundings shattered under this punch, turning into countless fragments that drifted away. Black holes appeared in the sky one after another. Mr. Yu's body was also shattered by the punch. However, his face was still as calm as water, without any fluctuations in emotion. What's going on? Mu Wu was stunned, and then her expression changed drastically, filled with anger. The space in front of him shattered and was sucked into the black hole with Mr. Yu. However, when the figure was shattered, it actually turned into specks of light and dissipated. Turned out to be an illusion. Mr. Yu's real body was nowhere to be found. What? Even Captain Mu Wu was tricked. Bin Jie and the others were all shocked and dumbstruck. Yun Xiao sighed. What a powerful mental power. I'm afraid this man can break through to become a 9th-tier emperor alchemist in the future. I didn't even notice that it was an illusion. Ding Ling Er's face turned pale with horror. A 9th-tier alchemist was a supreme existence. Besides, since Yun Xiao had said so, it should be true. She stepped forward to help Yun Xiao up. Looking at the blood all over his head, and the many wounds on his head, she said worriedly, "Young Master Yun, are you all right?" Shaking his head, Yun Xiao descended from the sky and began to check Yunxiang. In the distance, Mu Wu stood quietly in the air for a while, before suddenly turning into a streak of light and flying towards the south of the city with extreme speed, as if she was extremely unwilling to give up. Bin Jie and the others looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Yun Xiao reached out and grabbed Yunxiang's arm, but an extremely overbearing force shook it away. When he opened his hand, it was charred black. What happened? Ding Ling asked in horror. Yun Xiao's face was also unprecedentedly serious as he said, "The thing that Mr. Yu gave her just now seemed to have activated her 9-yang divine body. Now her entire body is like a dantian, with powerful qi genes circulating inside. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the real 9-yang genuine qi. It's really overbearing and powerful." Although Yunxiang had been using the 9-yang true qi all this time, she was only using the 9-yang true technique to circulate her primordial qi. At this moment, what was surging in her body was the 9-yang true qi that had finally taken form after so many years of accumulation. Sister Yunxiang is only a martial king after all. Ding Ling said worriedly. The power of this aura even makes my heart palpitate. Will Sister Yunxiang be all right? I don't know. Yun Xiao shook his head. I don't know. I have to take her to the Divine Realm tablet. If something happens here, I can't suppress it at all. Ding Ling understood what he meant. In the Divine Realm tablet, Yun Xiao was a god, and there was nothing he could not do. She picked up Yunxiang and followed Yun Xiao into a secret chamber. After all, the secret of the Divine Realm tablet could not be known to everyone. After Yun Xiao and Yunxiang entered the Divine Realm tablet, she stood guard outside the door. At the same time, he took out an extremely valuable golden communication jade token. After a moment of worry, he imprinted a trace of spiritual sense into it and crushed it in his hand. At the moment the jade token shattered, a pitch-black color seemed to appear and his spiritual sense was transmitted far away. After entering the Divine Realm tablet, Yun Xiao placed Yunxiang at the bottom of Mount Inch, in the array where Meng Wu had been lying. He casually waved his hand and summoned Gu Yuesheng and Situ Heng. He stared at the two of them coldly and said, "That Mr. Yu from the Skeleton Mercenaries. Who is he?" Gu Yuesheng and Situhang had been cultivating in the Divine Realm tablet for a long time, and their injuries had long recovered. When they saw Yunxiao, whose head was covered in blood, they were both taken aback. Gu Yuesheng's pupils contracted slightly as he said in surprise, "You met Mr. Yu? Could it be that he was the one who caused the injuries on your body?" "Impossible! This is impossible!" he exclaimed in shock. "Since you've met him, unless you hide in this mysterious space, you won't be able to keep your life." Gu Yuesheng was suddenly stunned. He seemed to have thought of something and laughed out loud. "Haha, don't tell me I'm right. You're really hiding here to escape? Mr. Yu is outside." A look of great joy flashed across Situheng's face as he shouted, "Kid, let us go quickly, and maybe we can keep our lives. With the two of us pleading for you in front of Mr. Yu, we can definitely save your life." Yunxiao's hair was disheveled, and his face was covered in blood, but his eyes were shining as if he was looking at a fool. He sneered and said, "What kind of place is this? Are you all pretending to be ignorant? Do you think I'll let you go? Also, do you really think that you're so important that you can speak in front of the rain?" Gu Yuesheng and Situheng's expressions changed drastically, as if they had lost all color. "Could it be true?" Situheng was shocked. How is this possible?" Gu Yuesheng's hair stood on end as he cried out, Is this really the interior of Noah's ship? Who are you? This transcendent grade profound level weapon actually fell into your hands." Not long after the two of them entered, they began to explore this spatial world. The more they entered, the more they felt that something was wrong. But that guess was too shocking, and he could not believe it. Now that it was confirmed by Yunxiao, he was shocked beyond words. "You don't have to worry about that," Yunxiao said. "Just tell me everything you know. Before I advance to the rank of a Martial Supreme, don't even think about leaving this place. You don't need to worry about people from the outside coming in to take revenge. The cultivation resources here are not worse than the outside world. If you can cultivate to the peak of the Martial Supreme realm, you can also break the rules of heaven and earth here and break through the void to get out." Then, his eyes turned cold and he said in a cold voice, "Of course, the premise is that you can live to that time. If I'm not satisfied, any moment can be the end of your lives." He raised his finger and pointed it forward. The power of the rules in the surroundings suddenly pressed down. Situhang and Gu Yuesheng felt their bodies being thrown out violently. The space around them kept changing. They did not know how far they had flown. In the end, they crashed into the hard mountain with a loud boom, and their bones were almost broken. Gu Yuesheng opened his eyes and realized that they were no longer in the cave. Situhang had also disappeared without a trace. He was the only one left embedded in the stone wall. He had suffered internal injuries from the shock. Yunxiao's voice came into his ears. "Let's start now. If there's any conflict between the two of you, I'll pull you into the spiritual world and cut you into pieces. Each cut will take 10,000 years." Gu Yuesheng's face turned pale. As a secret alchemist, he naturally knew how terrifying the spiritual space was. In the spiritual space, everything was controlled by the will of the other party. It was easy to make you feel the pain of being cut for 10,000 years with one slash. You've suffered for thousands of years in there, but in the realm of heavenly martial arts, it might only be a moment. When they recalled Yunxiao's ability to summon them and change time and space with a finger, they were no longer convinced that this was the legendary Noah's ship, the peerless profound artifact that could accommodate life and form its own world. He no longer had any thoughts of resisting and said dejectedly, "I don't know about Mr. Yu's situation, but I do know that he's a friend of my master." Yunxiao's figure appeared in front of him as he said with a frown, "The one who's known as the crazy alchemist, Jie? Didn't he die many years ago?" Gu Yuesheng was shocked. He smiled bitterly and said, "So you even know about my master?" Yes, he was the crazy alchemist that everyone thought was dead. Because his research field was too brutal, it had been banned by the Sea of Soul Formation many times. But what kind of person is my master? He wouldn't listen to those boring orders. Instead, he's researching deeper and deeper. In the end, he was killed by the Sea of Soul Formation and was lucky enough to survive. I've been focusing on my research all these years. Crazy Jie is indeed a strange talent, Xianxia sneered. I've seen him a few times before. This person was arrogant, unruly, and self-righteous. You don't know how to spend your energy on self-cultivation and always do these unorthodox things. I didn't expect you to still be unrepentant. But the sea of soul formation is indeed a little pedantic, he added with a slight frown. Gu Yuesheng was shocked. What did you say? You've seen my master? How was that possible? My master escaped from the sea of soul formation more than 30 years ago. You're not even 20 yet. Don't talk nonsense. Xianxia looked at him coldly and said, That's none of your business. Let's talk about Mr. Yu. Who is he? How does he know your master? Why is he in the skeleton mercenary corps? Gu Yuesheng felt that the man in front of him was so mysterious that he was beyond his understanding. He was not even 20 years old yet, but he already had such a cultivation level. He was also riding on Noah's boat. In the entire heavenly martial continent, he was afraid that there was no other person like him. A sense of powerlessness arose in his heart, and he said bitterly, Mr. Yu is the high priest of the monster race. What? Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he said in horror. How is that possible? Wasn't the high priest of the monster race suppressed in the Five-Cloud Mountain by Gu Qingqing thousands of years ago? Moreover, the inheritance of the great priest must be passed down through the same line. Without the strength of a predecessor, it is impossible to become the great priest of the monster race. Gu Yuesheng looked stunned and said, You know so much? I'm not sure about this either. He had only heard his master say this before. As for how they got to know each other, it was you who came to us. Birds of a feather flock together, he suddenly laughed. They're both abnormal. Xianxia nodded and said, That's true. Your master specializes in collecting organs, and that you specializes in collecting blood. They are indeed two freaks. They are a very good match. They're probably together for some perverted research. Gu Yuesheng laughed. That's right. The two of them have been discussing with each other for half a year. They have done countless experiments, and it seems that they have gained a lot. As he said this, his face turned slightly pale, and he seemed to be a little ferocious. Xianxia gave him a sympathetic look and said coldly, Luo, you must be one of the test subjects for the past 6 months. Gu Yuesheng's expression changed drastically, and he began to tremble violently. His eyeball burst open and became bigger and bigger. Blue veins covered his forehead. The entire immemorial heavens eye occupied half of his face and revealed a fierce look. He roared ferociously, You know nothing. I'm willing to be a test subject. With this primordial heaven's eye, you can practice Gu Feiyang's pupil technique and have a chance to become a great alchemist. The strange pupil in the immemorial heavenly eye suddenly shrank, and an overbearing spiritual power shot out of it, rushing into Yunxiao's mind. Yunxiao's face was extremely calm. One of his pupils instantly turned into a blood-red crescent moon, and rows of tadpole-like characters emerged around it and spread toward his eye socket. They were the scriptures of the Great Expansion divine technique. The space around them turned and Gu Yuesheng's mental attack disappeared without a trace. You're a coward. Gu Feiyang's pupil technique, moon deficiency. He cried out in fear, his eyes filled with disbelief. He roared madly. How come you also know Gu Feiyang's eye technique? Who are you? I should be the only one in the world who knows this pupillary ability. You don't have the immemorial heaven's eye, so how are you able to use it? Yunxiao looked at him coldly and muttered to himself, This immemorial heaven's eye is indeed interesting. Perhaps I can find an opportunity to improve myself. When I return to the 9th step, it seems I'll have to find that crazy Jie and do some research. After he finished speaking, he disappeared. Gu Yuesheng was completely dumbfounded. He had heard Yunxiao's words just now. After the strike, the immemorial heavens eye had retracted back into his brain. His normal eyes were also bulging like bells. Other than his pale face, cold sweat was pouring down. His mind was almost blank. His mouth was dry as he repeated the sentence. Wait until we return to after level 9, then we'll go back. Yunxiao had also gotten some information from Situ Hang, and he had a certain understanding of Mr. Yu, but it was still very vague. Mr. You had suddenly appeared in the skeleton mercenary group a few years ago, and Shinfeng seemed to trust and respect him very much. No one could figure out this person's background, but they could feel a strong and soul-shaking temperament. Coupled with Shinfeng's instructions, no one dared to disobey his orders. Moreover, his existence was only known to some of the leaders in the mercenary group, and it was a big secret of the mercenary group. I hate the divine body of Nine Sun, High Priest, and the skeleton mercenaries. Could it be that something has happened to the Five Cloud Mountain, and the demons can come out now? Yunxiao was taken aback by his own guess. Looking at the unconscious Yunxiang in front of him, he murmured to himself, "If that's the case, then we're in big trouble." He could have killed Yunxiang, so why did he let her go? What did she inject into Yunxiang? The surging aura in Yunxiang's body is getting stronger and stronger, and it has already surpassed the average martial grandmaster. He worriedly sent his divine sense to Yunxiang's body, only to sense a strong positive yang qi emanating from her, and the red light on her body was getting stronger and stronger. This was the phenomenon of a divine body. This process was extremely similar to the gradual awakening of a god body. This is all I can do to help you. It'll depend on your own fortune to what extent you can reach. Divine body of Nine Yang, I look forward to the moment you become powerful. Then, you'll become the stepping stone for the rise of our monster race. Yunxiao recalled what Mr. Yu had said before he left and asked suspiciously, "Is you really helping Yunxiang? How is this possible?" A few days ago, he was in a hurry to kill the divine body of Nine Yang, but now he wanted to cultivate Yunxiang. What was going on? Could it be related to the great demons in the cave? Who knows how long those demons have been in the cave? Why didn't you report such an important matter to the Misty Snow Sacred Domain? Yunxiao felt that things were getting more and more complicated. He muttered to himself, "If something really happened to the Five Cloud Mountain, the ancient martial empire would be in a state of chaos." His third disciple, Jun Ruyun, was the Fuma of the ancient martial empire. The mission of the ancient martial kingdom was to guard the Five Cloud Mountain. He thought about it with all sorts of messy thoughts, but he still had no clue. He finally gave up and set aside his thoughts to stand guard beside Yunxiang. In this divine realm tablet, even if there was an unexpected situation, he was confident that he could handle it. The strange phenomenon on Yunxiang's body grew stronger and stronger, and the entire cave was filled with a red light. Yunxiao felt extremely comfortable in it, and the strength in his body was constantly increasing. He suddenly thought of Meng Bai. The heaven and earth poison body was also a kind of divine body, which could be directly transformed into energy and absorbed by his one qi of creation technique. He did not expect that the Nine Yang phenomenon seemed to be almost there. He absorbed it carefully, and it seemed to be more powerful than the poison in Meng Bai's body. Yes. Suddenly, a soft and gentle voice came out of Yunxiang's mouth. Yunxiao was taken aback. He hurried forward to check, only to find a powerful positive yang energy surging out, preventing him from approaching. Luo Yunxiang's whole body was red as if she was on fire, and she looked like she was in great pain. Did he suffer from the backlash of his divine body, just like Meng Bai? Yunxiao immediately realized that Yunxiang's body could not withstand such a powerful Nine Yang true qi at the moment. What did you give her? He quickly circulated the qi creation technique and absorbed a large amount of Nine Yang genuine qi into his body, turning it into his own genuine qi. His cultivation level continued to increase. However, his face grew uglier and uglier, thinking that his absorption speed was far slower than the release speed from Luo Yunxiang. If anything happens to Yunxiang, I'll definitely wipe the monster race from the heavenly martial realm. Yunxiao's face was as cold as ice, and his killing intent soared. He wasn't a kind person to begin with. Those existences who dominated a region and shook the world had killed many people. There were cases of people getting angry and annihilating an area every day. As time passed, Yunxiao absorbed a large amount of Nine Yang true qi and advanced 1 star directly, stepping into the realm of 8 stars martial king. However, Luo Yunxiang was in a coma, and no one could come within 10 meters of her. Yunxiao's face was so dark that water was about to drip out, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they were trembling. When something like this happened again, he was unable to protect the people around him. He could only watch helplessly as they fell into danger one by one. It was the same for Meng Wu and her brother, as well as Yunxiang. This was all because he was too weak. Even if he had a peerless profound artifact like the Divine Realm Tablet, he was still unable to protect the person he wanted to protect. His eyes were completely red, and his killing intent gradually condensed outside his body, forming a purplish-black aura. It spun around him like a whirlwind, isolating the 9 yang genuine qi, as if the god of killing had descended. Suddenly, Yunxiao was taken aback. He raised his hands slightly, and the purple-black killing intent pointed forward, immediately opening a gap in the 9 yang true qi, but it soon closed again. His killing intent might not be as solid as Mr. Yu's, but it was still the legendary Ramayana. That's right, although the 9 yang true qi is a supreme power, it's still just a power attribute. Just like Mengbai's body poison, Ramayana, which is condensed from killing intent, and Dijia's black demon qi, they are all far stronger than ordinary vital qi, just like the various mutated elements. Yun Xiao muttered to himself, "Since my bright moon divine body can purify Ramayana, this mutated power should be able to be purified as well." A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He hurriedly circulated the power of his divine body. White light balls of different sizes began to appear on the acupuncture points all over his body. They were like night pearls of the East Sea. They began to emit light and connect with each other. A beam of white light burst out of his body, followed by a second, a third, and every beam of light streaked across the sky and connected together above him, illuminating a pure space that continued to expand. This was the divine body phenomenon of the bright moon body 24 moonlit bridges. Sure enough, as soon as the strange phenomenon of his divine body appeared, the 9 yang genuine qi gradually spread out under the illumination of the white light, turning into the purest power and spreading in all directions. The result overjoyed Yunxiao, but at the same time, he was shocked beyond words. His divine body had been acquired, and it was much weaker than the innate divine bodies of Luo Yunxiang and Meng Bai. However, this divine body's abnormality could purify all mutated powers. It was simply the nemesis of all divine bodies. Who created the inheritance of the bright moon divine body? There's never been any record of such a talented person in the history of the continent. The appearance of the body refining technique on the continent was also in the era when all kinds of innate divine bodies exerted great power. In order to reach the same realm, those post-celestial martial artists continued to develop all kinds of body refining techniques. Through various kinds of physical cultivation, they hoped to achieve the same effect as the divine body. Some of the outstanding ones had indeed done it. They had even cultivated to an existence that surpassed the divine body and created a new path of martial arts. The tyrant body tempering technique was an existence that gathered all these body techniques to the great completion realm. When cultivated to the peak realm, the imperishable golden body, one could punch through the void and shatter the earth with one's feet. The rules of heaven and earth would completely integrate into the body and suppress any divine body. The inheritance of the bright moon divine body should be a product of that era. It's just that there were too few people who could obtain the inheritance, so it was buried in history. Yun Xiao began to analyze the situation and said, "This 24 moonlit bridges only has the effect of purifying foreign energy. It's still far from being able to compare to the imperishable golden body. The inextinguishable golden body is an existence that has fused with the laws of heaven and earth and can suppress all powers." Suddenly, he felt that he had been too greedy. He had not paid any price and was not satisfied with the benefits he had obtained for no reason. However, on second thought, he had gambled 2 billion medial-grade primordial stones for it, so it could not be said that he had not paid anything at all. She gathered her thoughts and began to continue purifying the 9 yang genuine qi. When the white light enveloped her body, her pained expression gradually eased and turned into a peaceful one. Although the 9 yang genuine qi had been purified, its pure power still existed. It kept gushing out and gradually merged with the moonlight. The light in the entire cave turned pale red, enshrouding the two. The change surprised Xianxia and made him scratch his head. Although he was a peerless martial sovereign, there were not many things in the world that he did not know. However, a divine body was a 1 in a million existence, so he didn't know much about it without coming into contact with it. At this moment, he didn't know what was happening, but he felt that the fusion of these two forces seemed to affect the changes in his body, and his strength was constantly increasing. As long as Xianxia is fine, he sat down calmly and began to cultivate in this power. The circulation of the vital qi in his body was even more rapid than when he had only absorbed the 9-yang genuine qi. After an unknown period of time, Xianxia finally gradually woke up. She looked around in surprise and immediately remembered what was going on. She saw that Xianxia seemed to have entered a magical state, and her body had a strange feeling. She used her inner vision to check her cultivation level and was shocked. She almost screamed, felt like his entire body was filled with power. Every single move he made felt like there was a huge amount of power surging within his body. With this power, she was finally convinced that she had stepped into the 6 Directions martial grandmaster realm without a doubt. What did that person feed me? It's like some kind of blood that has allowed me to advance so much. What does he want to do? Xianxia was very puzzled. She glanced at Xianxia, who was still meditating, and a sweet feeling welled up in her heart. At this moment, in this strange atmosphere, only the two of them were left in the world. They sat facing each other. This was the first time he had looked at each other so closely, admiring every corner of his face. He was a little dazed. "Lord Gu Feiyang, please," Xianxia cried out softly in her heart. She was willing to sit quietly like this forever, to be a little bird by his side forever. Let time stop at this moment. Suddenly, Xianxia opened his eyes, and a divine beam as bright as mist and lightning flashed across the quiet atmosphere, startling Xianxia. She was jolted out of the lovesickness, and her face flushed with embarrassment. "You're all right?" Xianxia smiled. "Are you all right?" Xianxia did not dare to look into his eyes. She lowered her head and nodded a few times, then gave a soft Looking at her expression, Xianxia knew what she was thinking. He smiled wryly and said, "It's not the time to think. Hold your breath and release your God body's energy. My bright moon divine body and your 9-yang divine body seem to have undergone some strange changes. Don't you feel that the power in the surroundings is extremely strange?" Only then did Xianxia release her divine sense and quickly felt the strange power. Under this power, her body not only felt very comfortable, but also benefited greatly. "You didn't notice it?" Xianxia asked in surprise. "You didn't notice?" Luo Yunxiang's face turned even redder. She lowered her head. Her eyes filled with resentment as she thought to herself, "I'm going to kill you. It's all because I'm looking at you. This should be the fusion of the two divine bodies by chance," Xianxia said. "I don't know how long it can last, and I don't know when it will happen again. You should hurry up and cultivate now. 1 minute is equivalent to 1 day." Xianxia bit her lips slightly and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. It took her a long time to enter a meditative state. The two of them sat face to face, their auras constantly surging out and merging with each other. At this moment, it was not only their auras, but their hearts and minds seemed to gradually connect. Without the phoenix's wings, their hearts were connected. The moment their souls touched, their hearts trembled. They immediately woke up from that strange feeling. The power of their divine bodies was also affected. They could no longer stabilize and gradually began to reject each other. "What a pity," Xianxia thought to himself. That kind of state was absolutely something that could only be encountered and not sought, and it was of great benefit to both of them. In such a short time, Xianxia had already reached the peak of a 1-stars martial grandmaster, while he himself had entered the realm of a 9-stars martial king. He did not know when he would have another chance like this. Sorry. Looking at the regretful expression on Xiao's face, Xianxia felt that she had made a big mistake. Like a frightened rabbit, she quickly apologized. Xianxia was taken aback, but then he smiled and said, "What's wrong? It's just that the opportunity has passed. What does it have to do with you?" "Oh," Xianxia murmured softly. Her face was red, and she did not dare to look into Yunxiao's eyes. Her heart was beating like a deer. She sneaked a glance and saw Yunxiao staring at her with a smile. Her mind buzzed, and her mind went blank. Yunxiang, are you all right? Yunxiao had a strange look on his face. Lord Yunxiao, I hope to be able to serve by Lord Yunxiao's side forever. Yunxiang's eyes were a little misty. She did not know where she had found the courage to say such a heartfelt word. Yunxiao was taken aback. He coughed a few times in embarrassment and said, Cough, cough. I only absorbed a little bit of your 9-yang true qi. You're not trying to extort me, are you? Luo Yunxiang immediately came back to her senses, and her face turned red and purple with embarrassment. No, it's not like this. Yunxiao pretended to breathe a sigh of relief and said, That's good, let's go. I don't know how much time has passed, but is there anything strange in your body? A trace of disappointment flashed through Yunxiang's heart. She casually checked her body and said, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Moreover, the power in my body seems to be far more powerful than that of a 1-star martial grandmaster. Of course, Yunxiao said with a smile. The 9-yang true technique is one of the best divine techniques in the world. Back then, Gu Qingqing suppressed the demon race under the 5-cloud mountain with this cultivation technique alone, and it is said that she entered the 10 directions divine realm. You have to work hard too. Your future achievements will not be below hers. Yunxiang nodded seriously. She didn't think it was that important to step into the omnidirectional divine realm. What was important was that as long as she continued on this path, she would be able to be with the person in front of her forever. The two of them went out of the divine realm tablet one after another, and Ding Ling who was outside, immediately noticed them. Sister Yunxiang, are you all right? When Ding Ling saw Yunxiang's face, she was shocked and said, Sister, you have become a martial ancestor. Yunxiang nodded slightly, but her eyes were secretly glancing at Yunxiao. Ding Ling heart sank. She felt that there was an indescribable feeling between the two of them. Her woman's intuition told her that something was wrong, and she couldn't help but feel sad. Then I'll have to congratulate you, sister. Luo Yunxiang seemed to realize that something was wrong with her, as if she was still immersed in the feeling of telepathy. Her face blushed slightly, but she returned to normal and said, Little sister Ling don't make fun of me. I'm still far from being comparable to you. Ding Ling laughed. How can that be? I'm born with a divine body. I'm sure I'll become the top existence on this continent in the future. After she said this, her heart sank and she finally understood why she felt so bad. It turned out that both of them had divine bodies. Needless to say, Yunxiao would only be more powerful than Gu Feiyang in the future, and it would only be a matter of time before he entered the divine realm. As for Yunxiang, she had the divine body of 9 yang, which had dominated an era in all historical records. And what about him? She was just a merchant. He didn't have great talent, nor did he have a domineering divine body. He just had better cultivation resources. In terms of cultivation resources, Luo Yunxiang was a disciple of Xianxia Palace, so her cultivation resources were far better than his. The more she thought about it, the sadder she felt. She felt that she could not keep up with their pace. She only felt that Yunxiao and Yunxiang were going further and further away, and she would never be able to catch up with them again. No, we can't do this. I must work even harder to keep up with Lord Cloudsky's pace. Ding Ling secretly encouraged herself, and her face showed a determined look. What's wrong, Ling? Yunxiao asked in surprise. What's wrong? No. Ding Ling blushed and quickly said, Oh, right. You've been cultivating for 7 days. During this period, Captain Bin Jie came to look for you a few times, but I stopped him. It's said that after Captain Mu Wu went after Mr. Yu, he never returned. What? Yunxiao was taken aback. Although Mu Wu had just been promoted to a 2-stars Marshal Supreme, he was a battle maniac, and even a 3-stars Marshal Supreme might not be able to suppress him with his true combat strength. Even if he couldn't defeat the skeleton mercenary group alone, he should be able to escape unscathed. Could something have happened? How's Xinli doing? He asked. Ding Ling said, I've also asked Zhou Xiang to pay special attention to it. It seems that many masters have snuck into the Empyrean 1 pavilion during this period of time. Some of them are so strong that even Zhou Xiang did not dare to investigate them. I suspect that there must be martial supremes from the Empyrean 1 pavilion. There are also some mysterious people entering the city. According to my analysis, they are most likely experts from the Four Extremes sect. Yunxiao smiled and said, "Everyone knows that Tang Jie has been captured. It would be strange if the Four Extremes sect isn't angry. Moreover, it was related to the ship's key. Skeleton Mercenary Group and Mr. Yu, I'd like to see how strong you are and whether you can withstand the attacks of Empyrean 1 Pavilion and Four Extremes sect. It's not that easy to get the key." Ding Ling looked confused and said, "Yunxiao, if the ship key is really with Tang Jie, why did he come to the Gentle Song Forest instead of staying in the headquarters?" Yunxiao's eyes narrowed as he said, "That's exactly what I want to know. You guys stay in Team 8's base and don't leave. I have to go to the Skeleton Mercenary Group." Seeing the worry in the eyes of the two girls, he chuckled and said, "Don't forget about my World God tablet. No matter how dangerous it is, you can just hide inside. Unless they are at the level of Wei Qing and Yao Jinliang, who can break through the power of a world, who can do anything to me." He didn't meet with Bin Jie and the others and left the cultivation room directly. He turned into a ray of light and headed towards the south of the city. The entire forest was huge, and it took them a joss stick's time to enter the territory of the Skeleton Mercenary Group. Every day, there were large numbers of martial artists flying around in the sky, so his actions did not attract much attention. Although the Gentle Song Forest was a gathering place for fanatics and thugs, there were still great differences under the jurisdiction of different forces. In the southern part of the city, other than humans, he actually saw some other strange races. In an unremarkable corner, there was an 8-armed octopus man. The octopus man seemed to have noticed that Yunxiao was staring at him. With an unhappy look on his face, he snorted and said, "You're too ignorant. If you keep looking, do you believe I'll dig out your eyes?" With a wry smile, Yunxiao stepped forward, picked up a pearl from the stall, and put it under the sun to examine it. His pupils constricted slightly as he said, "How much is this pearl?" The location of the octopus monster was extremely remote and inconspicuous. The reason why Yunxiao noticed him was that the pearl in the stall gave him a strange feeling, which attracted him to walk over. "Pearl?" The octopus man sneered and said, "You really think it's a pearl? Are you stupid, or do you think I'm stupid?" "Then what kind of bead is this?" Yunxiao asked. This question stumped the octopus man. He frowned and pondered for a while before saying, "I don't know what this pearl is, but it's definitely not a pearl. If you can tell me the origins and effects of this pearl, I can sell it to you at a lower price." Yunxiao sneered in his heart. "If I really tell you, it'll be strange if you still sell it." He shook his head in distress and said, "I don't know what kind of bead it is, but it gives me a very strange feeling. How much are you selling this for?" The octopus man looked at him suspiciously and coldly said, "In short, this pearl is definitely not an ordinary item. How about this, since you seem to really like it, you can take the 10 million origin stones. I'll fuck your octopus head and trident. 10 million? Why don't you just rob someone?" Yunxiao threw the bead to the ground, then stood up and was about to leave, his face full of anger. Hey, don't go. The price is negotiable." Seeing that he was about to leave, the octopus monster immediately became anxious. It immediately understood that its price was indeed a little outrageous. He just wanted to test how much this bead was worth in the other party's heart. After all, he didn't know what it was. He had been selling it for a long time and many people had been interested in it, but in the end, they didn't manage to sell it. When he saw Yunxiao stop, he quickly said, "Do you really like this thing? If you really like it, you can name a price, and I'll sell it if I think it's appropriate." Yunxiao sneered in his heart. "How dare you play such a little trick in front of me?" Suddenly, a man stumbled over from the front. His face was pale, but he was very handsome. However, his eyes were deep black and full of fear. A few men who looked like mercenaries chased after him fiercely. One of them was faster, and as soon as he caught up, He kicked the man in front of him to the ground and slid for more than 10 meters before he lay not far away from Xianxia, wailing and begging for mercy. The mercenaries quickly caught up, and one of them said fiercely, "You said you would return the money 3 days ago, but you're hiding. Do you think we won't recognize you just because you drew a disguise? We'll recognize you even if you turn into ashes." The man on the ground wailed, "I really didn't hide. I was captured by a big pervert. I've been subjected to inhuman torture these few days, which is why I look like this. Trust me. I'll return the money I owe you in 2 days. Inhuman torture? If you don't pay me back, I'll show you what real inhumane torture is." A few people rushed up, and no matter how the man begged for mercy, they just punched and kicked him. This kind of thing happened every day, and Xianxia was too lazy to watch it. He held out 3 fingers to the octopus. 3 million. The octopus man had a strange expression and shouted, "Aren't you cutting it too hard? You cut off 2/3 of it in one go. How about this? Let's not haggle. 5 million primeval stones is the deal. I'm only selling it because you really like it. If you don't, I won't sell it no matter how much you pay." "No, your sister." "The sea race is full of simple and honest people," Xianxia scolded. "When did they have a cunning merchant like you?" After staying on land for a long time, they had also learned the bad things. "I said 30,000. I don't want even one more primeval stone." Suddenly, a strange voice came from the distance. It laughed and said, "Oh my baby, why did you run away?" Immediately after, the besieged man's face revealed a look of horror as he cried out madly, "Just kill me. You guys hurry up and kill me. I'd rather die than fall into that person's hands." The mercenaries all frowned, and just as they were about to turn around, they felt a flash of light and a sharp pain in their necks, and then they lost consciousness. To the bystanders, the scene was just a flash of light, followed by a crack sound of a few necks breaking. Then, the bodies of the mercenaries were thrown far away, falling to the ground and dead. The remaining man who had been surrounded and beaten up earlier kept retreating in fear as if he had seen a demon. "My baby, is there something that you're not satisfied with? You've actually run off everywhere. Come back with me." The man who had just appeared held a silk handkerchief in his hand and covered his mouth as he laughed. Her 10 long nails were painted with red cornstarch. Her face was blushed. Her lips were red. Her teeth were white. And her eyes were so seductive. She was dressed up like a transvestite. The moment the transvestite appeared, Xianxia's pupils constricted, and he was shocked. Although this transvestite had concealed his aura very well, the powerful martial essence fluctuation when he had attacked just now still shocked him. Even the octopus monster's eyes shrank into small balls, but it quickly recovered and shouted, 30,000? Are you a murderer? You might as well just kill me. Even if it's a pearl, it's not worth 30,000 yuan for such a big one. I'll kill you. I'll kill you." The man on the ground suddenly had the courage to rush up and punch the transvestite with all his might. The fist wind emitted a brilliant light. This person was actually a martial arts grandmaster. "Pa!" The transvestite chuckled and caught his punch with his left hand. He touched his fist with his finger and said pitifully, "What a delicate little hand. It's such a waste to use it to wave my fist." With a wave of the handkerchief in his right hand, a pink aura shot out. The martial arts grandmaster man suddenly became dazed. Before his eyes lost their luster, he revealed a look of despair. 30,000 is the highest price I can offer," Xianxia snorted coldly. "If you want to sell it, then sell it. If you don't, then get out of here." "This is my stall," the octopus said angrily. "You should be the one to get lost." "Oh my, what beautiful pearls. Brother octopus, how much is it?" Suddenly, the voice of the transvestite was heard. He held the martial grandmaster's hand and walked over with small steps. He picked up the pearl from the stall and looked at it carefully for a while. The octopus monster swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Its stomach churned, and it said in a cold sweat, 3 million mid-grade origin stones. The transvestite laughed. "Look at your 8 arms, you look like an honest man. I think you clearly have an 8 aperture exquisite heart. Sigh, what a pity. If only it had 8 little feet. Blarg! At the thought of the 8 little feet, Xianxia could not hold it in any longer. The things in his stomach immediately rushed up, and he vomited in front of the stall. It was only then that the transvestite gave Xianxia a look. Suddenly, his eyes were stunned and sparkled, and the spring color on his face grew brighter. The octopus shivered and quickly snatched the bead back from the transvestite's hand. He said angrily, "If you want to buy, then buy. If you don't want to buy, then quickly get lost." Xianxia patted his chest to calm himself down. His face was a little white as he said, 3 million it is then. I'll buy it. Hurry up and give me the pearls. He felt that he couldn't stay a moment longer. He felt like he was going to collapse if he stayed beside this transvestite for another second. The octopus had the same thought and handed the bead over. "Pa!" The transvestite quickly grabbed the octopus's hand and laughed. "I'll buy it for 3 million too." The octopus only felt that the other party's hand was not only holding the pearl, but also touching it all over his hand. Suddenly, goosebumps rose on his body. He hurriedly pulled his hand back and said, "Hurry up and give me the money. I'll call it a day after you give me the money." He raised the hand that had been touched high up, wishing he could cut off the arm and stretch out the other hand to collect the money. As if he thought of something, his face changed and he retracted his hand. He pointed to the ground and said, "Just put the money on the ground." Xianxia took a step forward and said angrily, "I'll fuck your octopus head. Isn't there a first come, first served basis?" The octopus monster glanced at him and pouted. "Here, the bead is with him. If you have the ability, take it yourself." The transvestite took out a storage bag and poured out 3 million mid-grade primordial stones, then smiled at Xianxia and said, "Little brother, don't be anxious. Although this moon pearl of the East Sea is precious, as the saying goes, a sword is given to a hero, and pink is given to a beautiful woman. Big brother bought it to give to little brother. What? This is the moon pearl of the East Sea." The octopus monster's expression immediately changed, and its eyes widened in horror. The moon pearl of the Eastern Sea was the most precious treasure of the sea race. It was a pearl that could only be condensed when the saintess of the merman race of the Eastern Sea shed tears. It was said to be the purest thing in the world, able to purify all negative energy, and its value was incalculable. There was a saying in the world, "The moon pearl in the ocean had tears, the blue field was warm and the jade gave off smoke." These were the two purest treasures in the world, the moon pearl of the East Sea and the Lanteon heart-warming jade. Not only could these two treasures purify all kinds of forces in the world, but they could also resist the invasion of inner demons and prevent all kinds of chi deviation during cultivation if worn on one's body. These two treasures were hard to find. The octopus monster was completely dumbfounded. If it was really the moon pearl of the East Ocean, it wouldn't be able to buy it even with 30 billion, let alone 3 million. Blarg! Xianxia forced the thing in his stomach down, and his face turned pale. He didn't expect her to recognize the moon pearl of the East Sea. He only sensed it because of his divine body. Otherwise, it would be impossible to pick out such a bead from this pile of miscellaneous goods. The transvestite reached out his hand, and the bead lay in his palm. He handed it to Xianxia and said, "Little brother, take it. Big brother feels like an old friend at first sight, so I'll take it as a greeting gift." The arm was as green as jade, like a woman's arm, and it reached out to Xianxia. Xianxia was taken aback. He hurriedly jumped more than 10 meters away and pointed at him from a distance as he said, You can just put the bead on the ground and then move back 100 meters. I'll take it myself." All of a sudden, a burst of energy burst out. The octopus's aura instantly reached its peak, and it reached out to grab the bead. The other 7 arms didn't rest either, one of them rolling up the stall on the ground. He formed a hand seal with his 2 arms, and rays of golden light flashed. The other 2 arms flashed with light and 2 long swords appeared. The last 2 arms punched at the transvestite. After confirming that this pearl was the moon pearl of the East Sea, he immediately went back on his word. To the sea race, the moon pearl of the East Sea was not only a treasure that could make their cultivation much more efficient, but it also had an extremely important meaning. No sea race would sell such a thing. The transvestite's eyes slanted slightly to the side, staring at the octopus's thing. He sneered, "Eight-armed ugly monster. How dare you interrupt my first meeting with my little brother? You deserve to die." He clenched his outstretched arm and protected the bead in his palm. Then he threw a punch to the side. The power of the octopus's punch was instantly broken. He felt the wind from his opponent's punch break through all his power and hit his heart. He sucked in a breath of cold air in great shock. His two swords suddenly slashed down, and the incantation seals formed by his two arms also blasted down. At this moment, his body suddenly expanded to more than double its original size. His aura spread out across the entire street. He was actually a peak martial emperor. Bang! The people on the street all looked over in shock, only to see that the octopus monster's originally fierce expression suddenly became dull, and his eyes suddenly slowly became lax. His body that had just swelled up suddenly became as if it was leaking air, and gradually withered. The 6 arms that had been blasted out exploded at this moment, sending out clouds of blood mist. Everyone's face paled in shock, only to see the transvestite's fist already piercing into the octopus's heart. Blood was constantly dripping from her beautiful jade-like arm. They couldn't sense the strength of the transvestite, but the power that had burst out of the octopus had shocked everyone's soul. It was definitely at the peak of the martial emperor realm. In that case, the existence who could kill a peak martial emperor in one move must be furious. The people in the surroundings were originally here to watch the show or to do their own things, but at this moment, their bodies turned cold and they hurriedly moved away, trying to stay as far away from the Renyao as possible. Xianxia was also covered in cold sweat as he thought to himself, "I'm not going to let you go. Oh no, this transvestite was actually a martial supreme of the 8 Desolation territory, Tao Wu. If only he had bought the bead with 3 million primordial stones. For the sake of these few primordial stones, not only was the bead in danger, but he might even lose his ass." He looked at the transvestite licking his lips and felt a chill in his anus. Luckily, I reacted in time. Otherwise, this pearl would have been stained by the blood of this ugly octopus. The Renyao walked over with a smile and stretched out her hand. The moon pearl was still shining brightly in her palm. She smiled and said, "Little brother, come and take it." Gulp! Xianxia swallowed and kept stepping back. With a dry throat, he said, "You can put it on the ground. Don't be afraid. Big brother really wants to drink and chat with you." The transvestite laughed. Xianxia wiped his sweat and said, "Don't you already have a younger brother? And I'm very busy. Put down the bead. I'll leave after I get it." "You mean him?" The transvestite pointed at the martial grandmaster behind him, who had lost his divine sense, and a look of disgust appeared in his eyes. "I don't know this person at all. He's pestering me just because he's pretty. How annoying." With a gentle wave of his hand, the upper body of the martial arts grandmaster was instantly blasted apart, leaving only 2 legs on the ground. "I hate your sister. I don't want that bead anymore." Xianxia felt a chill in his heart. He turned around and turned into a beam of light, shooting away. Even if it was a martial honor, he would have the courage to fight. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't have to run away. But facing this transvestite, his heart was already cold. How could he still have the courage to fight? If he were to fight with a normal martial honor, he would at most die. At their level, they had long lost the concept of life and death. However, if he were to fight that transvestite and lose, the consequences would be unimaginable. It could be seen from the situation of the martial arts grandmaster earlier that he was better off dead. "Hee, little brother, you're quite stubborn. I like it." After flying wildly for a while, Xianxia heard the voice of the transvestite, and his face turned pale. Not far away, the transvestite was staring at him with a smile, his eyes full of lust. "Humph. Since you want to come, I'll take you to have some fun." Xianxia suppressed the anger in his heart, feeling that it was a great humiliation to be teased by a transvestite. He flew in a direction, but suddenly, a figure flashed beside him. The transvestite's speed actually surpassed him and intercepted him in the air. He sneered and said, I know where you're going. There are indeed a few troublesome guys there. Are you with them? Xiao was taken aback. The place he was going to was the secret place of the experts of the Empyrean One Pavilion. Ding Ling asked Zhou Xiang to keep a close eye on Empyrean One Pavilion, and only then did she find out that the masters who had just entered the Lightsong Woodland were hiding in the south of the city. Xiao was trying to lure the transvestite over and cause chaos, so that the transvestite would have a conflict with those people from the Empyrean One Pavilion. But he did not expect that his plan would be seen through, and this Renyao actually knew that there were experts hidden in that place. Who was he? The Gentle Song Forest doesn't seem to be very peaceful these days, the transvestite said, minding his own business. Many experts have appeared one after another. He stared into the distance and revealed a rare serious expression. Those people should be from Empyrean One Pavilion, right? Are you from the Empyrean One Pavilion? It's good that you know, Xiao sneered. When my companions come, they'll definitely tear you to pieces. A trace of solemnness flashed through the transvestite's eyes, but he still smiled like a flower and said, what a heartless little brother. I just want to give you a moon pearl from the East Sea. Many people fight for it but can't get it. Xiao felt a headache coming on as he said, State your price. Since you know I'm from Empyrean One Pavilion, I'm sure you can afford it. I don't care if you like men, but if you have any ideas about me, I'll make you a real woman. The transvestite's eyes were filled with resentment as he said angrily, If only she was really a woman, then you wouldn't ignore her. Xiao could not hold it in any longer, and he vomited out his bitter water as he said angrily, Don't think I'm trying to scare you. You've heard of an alchemist called Feng Zijia, haven't you? He's a pervert who specializes in manipulating human organs. Many years ago, he developed a secret technique to turn men into women and women into men. Now, he's in a hidden place in Empyrean One Pavilion. If you anger this young master, I'll make you a real woman. The Renyao's face went blank and revealed a look of disbelief. A flush of red flashed across his face as he said excitedly, Isn't Mad Hero dead? He was still alive? Can you really turn me into a real woman? You're not lying to me? This time, it was Xiao's turn to be stunned. Looking at the transvestite who was walking up to him excitedly, he was so scared that he kept stepping back, his body covered in cold sweat. What do you mean? The transvestite's eyes were filled with ecstasy as he said excitedly, Women, women. I want to become a woman. I want to become a real woman. If it was Feng Zijia, he could definitely do it. Am I right? Please help me. I beg you to help me. Xiao. The Renyao stood in the air and trembled with excitement. I've captured a lot of alchemists and asked them to study the method to turn men into real women. I've tried thousands of times, but none of them succeeded. They were all a bunch of good-for-nothing. Then, I finally gave up and simply turned all those alchemists into women. However, if it was the legendary crazy refiner, there must be a way. As long as you help me, I can agree to any condition. Gulp! Xiao swallowed with difficulty, wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and said in a daze, So that's how it is. Well, that crazy alchemist did have a way. Don't come over. Step back. If you take one more step, don't even think about becoming a real woman. When the Renyao heard that, he stood in the air and did not dare to move. His eyes were filled with apprehension and anticipation. Xiao cursed in his heart and said, How could there be so many perverts in this world? When I was at the peak of the martial supreme realm, I should have cleaned up all the perverts in this world. If I had, I wouldn't have met these perverts now. After the excitement, suspicion appeared in the eyes of the transvestite. How do I know you're not lying to me? Mad Hero really isn't dead? And can you really persuade him? His eyes were filled with hostility as he said coldly, If you lie to me and make my wish come to nothing, I'll make sure you won't die. Xiao shivered in fear when he felt the coldness. The men who fell into your hands, which one of them didn't wish to die? Of course I won't lie to you, he said hurriedly. I'll tell you, that crazy guy is my master. My name is Gu Yuexing, and I'm also an alchemist. After he finished speaking, he released the soul power in his body and explained some of Feng Zijia's past and present situation. Of course, he had forced Gu Yuexing to tell him that in his soul form in the Divine Realm tablet. After the transvestite heard this, he couldn't suppress his excitement and said with a shiver, "Not bad. Not bad. This is really his habit. In order to find him, I've studied a lot of information and intelligence." "You're right. It seems that you really are his disciple." Yunxiao wiped away his cold sweat. He found that he was drenched all over. Back in Yanwu, he had not been this nervous even when he was facing the old monster, the Martial Emperor constellation. He asked in the air, "Who are you? Also, why should I help you? What benefits can you give me?" The transvestite hesitated for a moment. He remembered that his greatest wish was to rely on this person in front of him, so he couldn't be careless. He said honestly, "My name is Yuan Sun. If you can help me, not only will I give you this moon pearl of the Eastern Sea, but I will also help you do anything within my power. And there's Ying Luo." A charming look suddenly appeared on his face, and he smiled. "And when she becomes a real woman, you'll be the first to enjoy her." Eft. Yunxiao coughed up a mouthful of blood on the spot. He felt dizzy and almost fell from the sky. He kept his guard up and said, "Hang in there, hang in there. You can't faint in front of this Renyao, or the consequences will be unimaginable." He forced himself to gather his jinqi and stabilize himself. His face was pale as he said, "Yuan Sun? There's a pervert called Yuan Xiang in the Death God Palace? Who is he to you?" Yuan Sun's expression changed. He gritted his teeth and said angrily, "That man is really my brother. Every time he has a good man, he's always the first to enjoy him, and then give him back after he's no longer needed. I hate him to death." As expected, Yunxiao suddenly understood. As expected, it's those perverts from Death God Palace. Death God Palace was the #1 assassination organization in the continent, and their expressions changed upon hearing this. What was even more shocking was that the killers in this organization were all perverts who liked men. Therefore, the martial artists targeted by Death God Palace would rather be killed than fall into the hands of these people alive. "Then why did you come to the Gentle Song Forest?" Yunxiao asked. "What's the matter? Could it be that someone paid to kill him? Who do you want to kill?" "Humph." Yuan Sun snorted. "A handsome man came to our door with the token of death, saying that he wanted to kill a man named Li Yunxiao. Originally, the appearance of the Death God's token requires the palace master to personally complete the task, but my brother, that bad guy, was completely infatuated with that beautiful man and enjoyed it all day and night in the palace, so he sent me out." Yunxiao's face changed drastically, almost turning pale. A small part of the reason for his change in expression was that the target of the other party was actually him, but more of it was because he was wailing for the beautiful man who came with the token of death. Although he didn't know who the other party was and why he wanted to kill him, he felt that he had already received the most tragic retribution when he thought about how Yuan Xiang was using that person day and night. "What's wrong? You know Li Yunxiao?" Yuan Sun saw the change in his expression and grew suspicious. "I heard that Li Yunxiao is also a stunningly beautiful man. I wonder if it's true." He licked his lips and grinned. "I really want to catch it and enjoy it." After staying in the south of the city for a few days, he naturally knew that the war between the mercenary group and the merchant union he had heard in the tea house was all nonsense, so he could not help but feel a little disappointed. He had hoped to meet such an influential and handsome man, so that he could have a goal. "Yunxiao." Yunxiao's eyes widened as he said angrily, "Although that Li Yunxiao is a peerless beauty, he is also my best friend. Don't even think about it. Otherwise, even if I have to die, I will never let my master help you change your gender." Yuan Sun jumped in shock and said in a panic, "Calm down. Calm down. I'm just saying it. Besides, there are as many beautiful men as there are hairs on an ox in this world. I definitely won't offend you for a man. Since you've said so, even if that Li Yunxiao is as beautiful as you, I won't have any thoughts about him." Looking at the pervert in front of him, Yun Xiao felt a burst of anger for no reason as he scolded. "First, give me the moon pearl, put it on the ground and move back 100 meters." I'll get it myself. Yuan Sun didn't dare to offend him, afraid that his wish would come to nothing. He did as he was told, putting down the moon pearl of the eastern sea and retreating 100 meters. Pointing his fingers, Yunxiao gathered some water elements in the air and washed the moon pearl a few times before he took it. Upon contact, a very familiar feeling surged into his body, as if it was a part of his body. Under the moon pearl's detection, a few of his acupoints began to emit a faint white light. Startled, Yunxiao hurriedly put the pearl back into his ring to avoid Yuan Sun from noticing the strange phenomenon. Sure enough, a look of confusion flashed through Yuan Sun's eyes. He frowned, as if he had sensed something. However, this didn't matter to him. The most important thing now was to flatter the other party and hope that Mad Hero would change his gender for him. Yunxiao, on the other hand, was quickly making plans in his heart. If he could make use of this freak, he asked, "How long have you been in the south of the city? Did you feel anything unusual?" "It's been 7 days," Yuan Sun frowned. "And the biggest change is that there's been a lot of experts sneaking in recently. I can't even figure out the details of some of them. And it feels like a storm is coming. My original mission was to kill Yunxiao, but it's because more and more experts are appearing that I've been biding my time and wanted to find out more about him. Although he was a freak, he was not a fool or a waste. On the contrary, those who could cultivate to the rank of martial honor were all extremely talented and intelligent. Other than Empyrean 1 Pavilion, there are also people from the Four Extremes sect. There seem to be a few other mysterious forces that even I don't know about." Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he said in a deep voice, "There are other forces besides the Empyrean 1 Pavilion and the Four Extremes sect." Yuan Sun nodded. "The communication methods and personnel of the Empyrean 1 Pavilion and the Four Extremes sect are easy to recognize. The rest of the powers are probably more obscure existences. That's why I didn't recognize them at first. He's not very strong, at least not stronger than your Empyrean 1 Pavilion." "Not bad." Yunxiao suddenly smiled and said, "As expected of an expert from the Death God Palace. As long as you do me a few favors, not only will I ask Master to change your gender, but I'll also give you a handsome man to enjoy." Tang Jie's figure appeared in his mind. "A beautiful man?" Yuan Sun's brows twitched, and he laughed. "I wonder how he is compared to you." What he valued now was only the change in gender. As for handsome men, with his strength, he could have as many as he wanted. Yunxiao trembled and said angrily, "You're not allowed to joke around with me in the future, and you're not allowed to have any thoughts about me." Yuan Sun laughed awkwardly. "I'm just joking. I won't dare to do it again." A martial honor expert had actually bowed down to him for such a ridiculous and perverted matter. However, Yuan Sun's heart was boiling with anger. He snorted, "You can be as arrogant as you want now. When I become a real woman, I'll definitely capture you and torture you. I'll let you have the honor of being my first man after changing my gender." How could Yunxiao not see the dirty thoughts in his heart? He sneered and said, "Now, help me find out something. The skeleton mercenary group has captured a man called Tang Jie, and the captain of the rookie mercenary group is called Mu Wu. Help me find out where these two are being held." Yuan Sun revealed a suspicious look, saying, "Many experts have come to your Empyrean 1 Pavilion recently, right? Why do you still need me to do this kind of thing?" Yunxiao's eyes turned cold as he snorted. "Even you can see the identity of Empyrean 1 Pavilion. How can the skeleton mercenary corps not know?" He asked. "It's the best for you to take action now. Moreover, that Tang Jie is quite good-looking." "Tang Jie," Yuan Sun muttered to himself. "Could they be from the Four Extremes sect?" he asked. "That's right," Yunxiao said with a smile. "He's the eldest young master of the Four Extremes sect." A savage smile flashed across Yuan Sun's face as he chuckled. "Not bad. Not bad. I've never played with a man of this status. When I find out, I'll go to the Empyrean 1 Pavilion's gathering place to find you." "No," Yunxiao hurriedly said. "No. Now that my identity in Empyrean 1 Pavilion has been exposed, I'll be living alone outside for the time being. If you have any news, come to the inn to find me." He left an address, and the two of them exchanged a few more words before they went their separate ways. Yuanxiao found an inn to stay in. He did not expect the situation in the south of the city to be more complicated than he had expected. It seemed that Tang Jie's appearance had attracted the attention of many other forces besides the Empyrean One Pavilion. At this time, the most important thing was to recognize the situation. Otherwise, if they rushed in all at once, they would become cannon fodder. This was especially so when he had encountered Yuan Sun. It was as if a meat pie had fallen from the heavens. He had originally come to kill him, but now he had become a great help. With Yuan Sun's strength, he could be considered a top-notch expert in Chengnan. Moreover, although these people were abnormal, they were all assassins. Their strength was far more tyrannical than those of the same rank, and they were best at acting in the dark. He didn't need to worry about anything now. He just had to wait for the news. Just as he calmed his mind and was about to cultivate, he suddenly frowned as he felt several powerful forces approaching him. There were a total of 3 of them, and they were all at the Martial Emperor realm, but their levels were not high. The 3 of them were all 1-star Martial Emperors. They seemed to think that he was easy to bully. They didn't even need to hide their figures and directly appeared in the room with a swagger. All of them stared at him with cold smiles. Yuanxiao found the arrogant looks of the 3 men very funny. The 3 of you barged in without knocking. Don't you pay attention to your manners? The image of a gang. The 3 of them were stunned when they heard this. They thought that the other party would definitely be on guard, but they didn't expect him to be completely unconcerned. The leader frowned and said, "Who are you?" This time, it was Yuanxiao's turn to be stunned. He had thought that since they had come here, they must know him. "The 3 of you don't know me, so why are you looking for me? And who are you?" The man on the left had an angry look on his face as he shouted, "What nonsense are you spouting? Answer whatever I ask you, or I'll teach you a lesson." In order to prove that he could teach Yuanxiao a lesson, he instantly unleashed the aura of a 1-star Martial Emperor and pressed down on Yuanxiao. A cold and arrogant look appeared on his face, as if he was saying, "Let's see if you can stand it or not." Yuanxiao was speechless for a moment. Then he said with a wry smile, "Very well. If you have anything to ask, please feel free to ask." The man in the lead asked, "Who are you? Who was that expert you separated from just now? What's your purpose in coming to the Gentle Song Forest?" Yuanxiao thought for a moment and said, "That man is a killer. He came to the Gentle Song Forest to kill me. As for me, I'm the leader of Noob Mercenary Group's 8th team." "You're from the Rookie Mercenary Group?" The 3 of them were shocked. The one on the left said angrily, "Nonsense. The captain of a Rookie Mercenary Group is at least a peak Martial Emperor. You're only a peak Martial King. You're not even qualified to be a commander. Do you think we're easy to fool? If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't tell me the truth." He suddenly strengthened the pressure on his body and smashed it hard on Yuanxiao. Yuanxiao only felt a gust of wind, and it was warm and comfortable as it pressed on his body. He smiled bitterly and said, "I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. May I know who the 3 of you are? Can you reveal it? Everyone should be honest with each other." The man on the right felt a little strange and said, "There's something strange about this man. He's actually fine under the pressure of a Martial Emperor." The man on the left had noticed it as well, and he had noticed it a long time ago, but he was too embarrassed to say it out loud. He had been strengthening his pressure, but Yuanxiao just laughed it off, as if he was a little sleepy. The man in the middle suddenly had a bad feeling. His face turned cold and he said, "Since you won't tell the truth, then there's no need to say anything more. You know of our existence, so you must keep it a secret. Only the dead can keep a secret." The 3 of them suddenly moved. Just as they were about to attack, they saw an ancient bell appear in Yuanxiao's hand, and it rang with a tap. Dang! As the sound wave spread out, the 3 of them instantly felt their minds go blank and lost consciousness for a short while. Although they recovered quickly, they found that they were no longer in the room, but under a clear sky. What was going on? Where is this place? The 3 men were taken aback. They soon saw Yuanxiao standing in the air in front of them with a smile on his face. Although they did not know what was going on, they had a bad feeling. Soon, the three of them lost their combat power and lay on the ground, covered in blood. Their eyes were filled with fear. A man said in horror, "I understand. This is the interior of Noah's ship. Could you be Tang Jie from the Four Extremes sect? How could it be? You clearly don't have the Yin key, so how could you have obtained Noah's ship? And you don't have that thing, so how could you refine it on your own?" When the other two men heard that, they were stunned at the same time. They looked around at the endless space, and when they thought of Xianxia's unpredictable means just now, the three of them completely collapsed with just a lift of his finger. Xianxia's heart stirred as he walked down from the void with a smile and said, "It seems that you guys really have some material. I didn't let you in for nothing. Let's talk about your origins." The man in the lead looked dejected. His aura was dispirited as he said, "You've already obtained Noah's ship, so what else do you have to say? Kill me or cut me up?" Xianxia chuckled and said, "I won't kill you. I'm sure you've been watching the man who separated from me for a long time. I'm sure you've been keeping an eye on him. I wonder if you guys know what his special interests and hobbies are." When the three of them heard this, they immediately trembled uncontrollably, each of them revealing a look of resentment. You can't do this to us, you demon," one of them said, trembling. Xianxia stared at him coldly and snorted. "You think you can't just because you say so? Who do you think you are? I'll give you 3 breaths to consider. Otherwise, I'll have that person interrogate you. He's not as bad-tempered as me, and he's always been very gentle to men." The three of them trembled even more violently. Yuan Sun had been under their surveillance the entire time, so he naturally understood what kind of fetish he had. His face turned extremely pale. I say, you must not let that person deal with us." The leader finally broke down and said dejectedly, "We are from the Temple of Holy Fire." "The Temple of Holy Fire?" After thinking for a while, Xianxia asked suspiciously, "Is there such a sect in the western regions? I don't think there's one in the realm of heavenly martial arts, right?" In the realm of heavenly martial arts, some of the forces that were slightly famous, even if they had never come into contact with them, they at least knew about them. Since the other party could send out 3 martial royal realm experts casually, they would not be a trashy gang. "Could it be that you're a hidden sect?" he asked. "Yes," the man said. "We are the descendants of the peerless martial sovereign Yi Tianan." Yunxiao's face flickered as he said in surprise, "Yi Tianan? Then, the purpose of your appearance this time is to be Wufu." A desolate look flashed across the man's face as he said bitterly, "It's this Noah's ship, but I didn't expect you to have it. However, Ingluo, how could this be possible? It's impossible to find Noah's ship with just the Yang key. Even if you're lucky enough to find it by accident, how can you refine it for your own use without that thing?" The shock in Yunxiao's heart was indescribable. He did not expect that the legendary Noah's ship would actually appear. Yi Tianan was the peerless martial sovereign who had refined this supreme-grade profound-level weapon. It seemed that Tang Jie had come to the Gentle Song Forest for the Yin Key. "In that case, the Yin Key is with you people from the Temple of Holy Fire," he said calmly. "What else do you need to refine this Noah's ship?" The man was about to say something when someone next to him nudged him. He immediately shut up. Yunxiao's eyes turned cold as he grinned hideously and said, "You're not being honest. It seems that I'll have to ask my companion to serve you." The three of them shivered in fear, feeling the chill in their chrysanthemums. They crawled back with all their might, trying to get as far away from the demon in front of them as possible. I'll talk. I just hope that you can give us a quick death after I'm done. Don't hand us over to that demon." The first person was in complete despair. He said bitterly, "The Yin Key is with our sacred fire hall's young master. If you want to refine Noah's ship, you must obtain a divine art. This divine art was left behind by the martial emperor Yi Nantian. So that was how it was." Yunxiao immediately understood. The Divine Realm tablet also had a corresponding divine technique of the Great Realm. Since Noah's ship was known as a supreme-grade mystic artifact, it was normal for it to need a corresponding divine technique to refine it. After asking a few more questions about the Temple of Holy Fire, He disappeared in a flash, leaving the three of them on the spot, feeling uneasy. They were afraid that the pervert would punish them, but they didn't have the courage to commit suicide. Xianxia's mind returned to his room in the inn. He muttered to himself, "Even the descendants of Noah's ship and Yitianan have appeared, and the demon clan seems to be getting restless. I don't know where Dijia, who is in Mount Shumi, came from. Also, why does it feel like the heavenly martial realm is going to be in chaos?" The demonic dragon's voice resounded in his mind. "It's none of your business. Speaking of Noah's ship, I remember something else. Do you remember when Lu Qingyu invited you to participate? A transcendent-grade mystic artifact?" Yunxiao was moved. "A transcendent-grade mystic artifact?" "That's right," the demon dragon said. "Back then, Lu Qingyu was the same as Yi Tianan. He had the ambition to refine a supreme-grade profound-level weapon. Your amazing performance in the small spirit sky made him want to pull you in. Humph. Who would have known that the astral slash sword that you refined in Little Spirit Sky was just an inferior transcendent-grade profound-level weapon?" As soon as the demonic dragon mentioned this, he seemed to be full of complaints. He said unhappily, "You fucking merged 3 ninth-tier mystic artifacts into one through the torrent mystic gold and used my power to control it so that it wouldn't break. You've deceived the powerful existences of the Sea of Soul Formation and the demon race." Yunxiao smiled wryly. "There was no other way. You know the situation at that time. However, I do have some experience in refining supreme-grade profound-level weapons. If I can get Noah's ship this time and dismantle it, I think it will be a great harvest." As he thought of this, his eyes shone. "Stop dreaming," the demonic dragon said disdainfully. "Other than the descendants of Martial Emperor Yi Tianan, the 4 extreme sect, Empyrean 1 Pavilion, the Skeleton Mercenary Group, and the Mysterious Rain are also watching Noah's ship. These are the forces that we know of. God knows what else we don't know. With your current strength? Humph. I don't want the Divine Realm Tablet to be snatched away by others." He paused for a moment before he continued. "If I can recover to my peak condition, I can help you. It's a pity that I'm only a wisp of my soul now, and my power is less than 10% or 20%. The little stone had improved quite quickly, but it was not so easy to enter the 8 Desolation realm. As for your other demonic beast, the Dark Thunder, its talent is far inferior to Little Shur's. I'm afraid it'll only be able to reach the rank of martial honor at most in its lifetime." Yunxiao was also very vexed. The newbie mercenary group is not bad, but it's a pity that Xiaohuang isn't here, so I can't control it. Otherwise, helping me fight for Noah's ship would be a great help. That kid's improving pretty quickly. He's about to break through to the martial supreme realm. Who knew where he was hiding? I think that Hai Beifei should know about it. He's just hiding it from you." "He's not the only one who knows," Yunxiao snorted coldly. "If I'm not wrong, the people of the Rainstorm Mercenary Group and the Skeleton Mercenary Group know about it, and they must have gone to cause trouble. Otherwise, I'd made such a big scene in the west of the city, breaking the balance that they'd had for so many years, and they wouldn't have even let out a fart. They must have sent a large number of experts to encircle and annihilate the young emperor." "Aren't you worried?" the demonic dragon asked in surprise. Yunxiao's face was cold as he said, "Which martial emperor doesn't stand out from all kinds of difficulties? This is the young emperor's own business, and I believe he can solve it. If he could not even deal with these small fries, he would not be able to reach the peak of the martial supreme realm even if he broke through to the martial supreme realm. These situations are a great test for him, but also an opportunity. There were no shortcuts on the path of martial arts. All the difficulties and challenges were the stones that blocked the way, but at the same time, they were also the capital to step on." The demonic dragon was silent for a while before saying, "What do you plan to do now? Are we going to the Temple of Holy Fire's base? Or are we just going to wait for news from that pervert?" Yunxiao seemed to be lost in thought, and he looked a little absent-minded. Suddenly he said, "You're right. I'm indeed very weak now. He would probably be at the bottom of the list in this competition. I've thought of a way to temporarily increase my strength." "What?" The demonic dragon was stunned. Yunxiao did not explain. Instead, he appeared directly in the Divine Realm tablet and came to Gu Yuesheng. Gu Yuesheng, who was quietly cultivating, was shocked. He stood up and said angrily, "What do you want to do?" Yunxiao walked toward him step by step and said indifferently, "It's fine. I'm just borrowing your immemorial heaven's eye." "What?" Gu Yuesheng was taken aback, and he immediately saw Yunxiao's red pupils losing consciousness. Yunxiao's fingers turned into a claw and clawed at Gu Yuesheng's left eye. Suddenly, a huge eye popped out of the left side of his face, shining with a fierce light and looking terrible. Yunxiao's face was filled with confusion. He grabbed the eyeball and pulled it out. Countless veins ran through Gu Yuesheng's body, and his face turned extremely terrifying, completely losing its human shape. A huge eyeball was caught in his hand, and dozens of blood vessels kept dancing in the air, like an octopus, as if it was trying to grab something. "Don't tell me you're trying to imitate that pervert and implant this thing into your body?" the demonic dragon asked in shock. "Not really," Yunxiao snorted. "I'm just borrowing it. That madman Jie was quite capable." These immemorial heaven's eyes were already dead, but he had implanted the Brahma bug in them and used it to control the heaven's eyes' movements. The Brahma bug had extremely strong parasitic properties and could be implanted into the human body at the same time. However, the Brahma-devouring bug has to constantly feed on human blood essence. This Gu Yuesheng is a good seedling. It's a pity that he became the crazy man's disciple. At this moment, Gu Yuesheng had lost his primordial heaven's eye, and one side of his face had become extremely terrifying. But, with a few incantations from Yunxiao, his face began to gradually recover. The blood vessels on the immemorial heavenly eye kept dancing in the air, and soon discovered Yunxiao's existence. They immediately hardened and pierced into Yunxiao's body like needles. But Yunxiao was prepared. Besides, they were in the Divine Realm tablet, and not even a martial emperor could do anything to him. He blew lightly, and the dozens of blood vessels stopped in the air. They were so stiff that they could not move forward at all. Then, they broke apart and turned into dust that was blown away. After the immemorial heavens I lost those blood vessels, its pupils slowly drooped down, turning into a dead object. Yunxiao gathered his spiritual power and gazed into the heavenly eye. He wanted to fully understand the structure of the heavenly eye and then use it. The demonic dragon stared at him for a long time before saying, "I understand. So you want to refine this thing into a profound-level weapon. Your idea is even crazier than that madman Jie's. An alchemist should act like an alchemist." Yunxiao snorted coldly. "There is nothing in the world that cannot be refined." He placed the eyeball in the air and continuously injected all kinds of rule force into it. The storage ring in his hand flashed with green light, and countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures appeared in the sky, spreading out one by one. Yunxiao's eyes swept over the eyeball, and with a thought, dozens of various materials flew over and were distributed around it in a strange posture. He waved his hand again, and countless flames surged out from the ground and soared into the sky, swallowing all the materials and roasting them. The demonic dragon's eyes glowed with a strange light. "Your soul power is only at the 5th rank, but you can use the rules of heaven and earth in the Divine Realm tablet and display the true phoenix fire limitlessly. Can you refine a higher-level profound weapon?" Yunxiao explained as he cast a magic art. "At most, I can refine it to the 6th tier, and it's limited by my own strength. So what if I can refine it to the 9th tier? Moreover, you also know that when refining 7th tier and above profound armaments, there will be a heavenly rule thunder tribulation. In my Divine Realm tablet, there's no thunder tribulation. Even if it's a 7th tier mystic weapon, it can't be compared with a 7th tier mystic weapon that has experienced the thunder tribulation." It was easy to understand this situation. A martial emperor who had also reached the level of a martial emperor but had been cultivating in seclusion would definitely be far weaker than a martial emperor who had been fighting outside for years. In the Divine Realm tablet, he was almost an invincible existence. He could adjust the rules of the realm at will, so he could replenish his soul power extremely quickly, and it would not consume much energy to refine it. The eyeball was being roasted by the true phoenix fire. Otherwise, it would have been turned into ashes after being dead for so many years. The various materials were instantly dissolved by the true fire and absorbed into the eyeball. The eyeball's color became brighter and brighter, flashing with golden light as if it was alive. His pupils seemed to have a mind of their own as they opened and closed, constantly releasing a strange power. It was mental power. The demonic dragon also came out of the purple shadow sword, shrinking dozens of times into a tiny dragon. It sat quietly beside Xianxia, watching the refining process. The true phoenix fire burned from a distance, and the godly state intent it emitted was also very beneficial to him. Xianxia's hands moved faster and faster, and his body glowed with a golden light. Tadpole-like characters kept emitting dense mist and dissipating in the air. In the end, the golden light from the eyeball became stronger and stronger, so piercing that it was difficult to open one's eyes. A wave of weapon intent gradually formed. "Retreat! Let's go!" Xianxia cried out, and the phoenix true flame that filled the sky quickly receded back into the earth. With a wave of his hand, the materials that filled the sky were all kept into his ring. In the sky, the golden eye floated quietly. It was very agile, and its pupil flashed and released spiritual fluctuations. As expected, it's a grade 6 item. "And this spirit is as strong as yours," the demon dragon complimented. "TSK, TSK. I won't have to be so pathetic against Mr. Yu now." However, Yunxiao's brows were tightly furrowed, as if he was extremely dissatisfied. "It's a pity that I don't have enough materials on me, and I can only reach this level." The ancient Heavenly Eye clan was truly impressive. Even after countless years, this eyeball still possessed such a powerful force. However, it's still far from enough to deal with the rain. A golden light flashed between his brows, and the eyeball in the air suddenly flew down and entered his brows. Soon, a golden eye appeared in the middle of his eyebrows. It flashed with a strange light and then disappeared. "Don't be so ungrateful," the demon dragon said. "The other party is an 8th-tier alchemist, and he knows all kinds of secret techniques. You only refined one eye, and you want to suppress him? How can he continue to live?" Xianxia was a little worried. A beam of light flew out of his hand and turned into a long sword. He held it in his hand and began to examine it carefully. It was the purple Shadow Qing Suo sword. After it had exchanged dozens of blows with Tang Jie's vermilion bird saber that day, it was already covered with large and small nicks. It was extremely broken. Furthermore, the artifact reserves that were being transmitted out had become extremely unstable, as if they could collapse at any moment. The 9th-tier mystic artifact was a combination of 2 swords, and it had only been able to stick them together for a long time under Yunxiao's powerful control. Now that the sword was damaged, the power of the combination was gradually weakening. Clang Yunxiao placed the sword in the air and flicked it lightly with a finger. It let out a crisp sword cry and suddenly split into 2, shooting out 2 streams of sword chi of different colors, one green and one purple, flashing in the air 1,000 meters away. However, that powerful 9th-grade tool accumulation had been reduced to the 7th grade. This purple Shadow Qing Suo sword is indeed a good profound level weapon. Unfortunately, it's not suitable for my stellar sword intent. It's better to refine a 6th-grade profound level weapon myself. With a single thought, the true phoenix fire once again rose from the ground and gathered towards the 2 swords, burning them. "What a waste," the demonic dragon said. "You actually want to reduce the level of materials that can be used to refine 9th-tier profound armaments to the 6th tier? Yunxiao's face was as calm as water as he said lightly, "After I forcefully refined the astral sword in Little Spirit Sky, I had an idea in my mind. After obtaining the Great Expansion Divine Technique, the possibility of this idea being realized has increased. The only thing I want to do now is to disassemble Noah's ship. I believe I can make a real supreme-grade profound level weapon. As for these 2 swords, they don't match my stellar sword essence in terms of material or creation. What's the use of them?" With a casual wave of his hand, the 2 7th-tier profound armaments began to melt under the true phoenix fire's heat. It was a pity that the divine realm tablet couldn't condense the thunder tribulation. Otherwise, He could directly refine a 9th-tier profound artifact by sending down the rules of heaven. Purple and green auras kept flowing out of the two swords, illuminating the sky into two distinct halves. Under the Phoenix divine fire, everything could be turned into nothingness. The azulate swords were made of 9th-tier materials, but their impurities had been burned away, and they had condensed into a gaseous state. Then there was a sound on the ground. The stone beast's body kept emerging from the ground. It raised its head to take a look, then flew into the sky and stood in the middle of the two swords. Xianxia's face began to turn serious as he controlled the purple and green gas to slowly surge toward the stone beast. The demonic dragon's pupils contracted as he exclaimed, "You're crazy! You're not thinking of refining the little stone, are you? These two auras are extremely overbearing and powerful. Xiao sure will die." A crazed look flashed in Xiao's eyes as he snorted. "I'm only refining his body, not his soul." The stone beast was an extremely strange existence. Its body was made of stone, and it would not die as long as its heart of stone was not injured. As long as I fused the purple and green chi into his body, even a 9th-tier profound armament would not be able to hurt him. In addition, his physical body can absorb the power of the earth and continuously recover. This is my ultimate trump card to suppress rain. His face was filled with ruthlessness. He formed a seal with both hands, and the purple and green chi rushed into the stone beast's body. As soon as they came into contact, the stone beast's yellow body began to collapse like a clay slab. It had no power to resist and turned into dust. A pained expression appeared on the stone beast's clumsy face, and it opened its mouth wide to wail. But, under Xiao's order, he did not dare to move. He just stood there dumbly, enduring the pain of his body collapsing. Soon, the red heart of stone was also revealed. It was beating like a heart, as if it was very afraid of the purple and green gas that was devouring his body. It shrank carefully. Meanwhile, the body of the heart of stone shattered into pieces, turning into powder under the purple and green gas. "His body has completely collapsed," the demon dragon said in a deep voice. "The difference in level is too great. There's no way to fuse it." His physical body had been nourished by the earth's growing soil and had a lot of room for improvement. If the fusion fails, he can only find another body, and his strength will be greatly reduced. Furthermore, the purple and green chi are 9th-grade items. If it's not controlled well, it's extremely likely to accidentally injure his heart, and that would be fatal. With a cruel look on his face, Xiao said, "If I can't merge it with my body, I won't be able to withstand a single blow from the rain." He could only give up on him completely or keep him as a pet, and give him away when he flirted with girls in the future. "If you want to become my assistant and step into the peak of the martial Tao with me, this little bit of training is nothing." Which unparalleled expert didn't walk through life in this way? Evil dragon, when did you become so long-winded? If you continue to be so long-winded, I'll refine you too. The demon dragon was silent for a while. Xiao's words were very reasonable. If he could succeed, the benefits to the stone beast would be unparalleled. Besides, he also knew that all alchemists were lunatics. Although Xiao looked normal when it came to alchemy, he was no different from those lunatics in the Sea of Soul formation. Xiao's body was shining with the light of the Great Expansion divine technique, which was as brilliant as the sun. One divine technique after another was sent into the stone beast's body, and soon, it collapsed to the point where only its heart was left. His movements slowed down, and his brows furrowed. Just as the demonic dragon had said, the stone beast's current state was unable to withstand the refinement of the purple and green chi, could only be turned into ashes. After he pondered for a while, a ray of light slowly rose from his hand. A small purple cauldron slowly flew out. All kinds of strange patterns were engraved on it, ancient and profound. Under the pressure of the purple cauldron, the demonic dragon's pupils shrank and he held his breath. He felt a sense of oppression in his heart. "Open!" Xiao gave a loud cry and thrust his palm forward. A spirit light flashed in his hand, then turned into a rune and imprinted itself on the purple cauldron. The purple cauldron was pushed into the air by the power of the runes, but it was still dead. There was no weapon essence spreading out, and it was like a dead pig. No matter how much water was used to heat it, it was still a dead pig. Xianxia cursed angrily. "Damn you! I don't believe I can't open you in my divine realm tablet." He pointed a finger, and the power of laws appeared in the world, pressing down on the purple cauldron. The space was compressed at this moment, and countless weights were condensed at that point. Boom, boom, boom. The purple cauldron finally let out a rumbling sound as it suffered a great impact. The huge belly of the cauldron rumbled as if it was resisting the infinite weight. "Good. Let's see how long you can last." "Burn!" Xianxia cried out. True phoenix flame. Burn! A sea of fire immediately appeared in the sky. The terrifying flame aura covered the sky and the earth, swallowing the purple cauldron and burning it. The two forces of territory, which were in the divine realm tablet, were exerted to their strongest extent and stacked together. The purple cauldron finally couldn't bear it anymore. A purple light spread out in the flame, and the body of the cauldron suddenly became golden. The strange patterns on it lit up one by one, and the brilliance flowed, and the spiritual chi was overwhelming. Xianxia's eyes flickered with fierceness as he appeared in front of the purple cauldron in an instant and performed a refining technique. It was the elusive waves technique he had created. All kinds of incantations were thrown into the purple cauldron like raindrops trying to start it. However, those spiritual arts were like raindrops falling into a sea of fire. They evaporated before they could even enter. No matter how powerful Xianxia's elusive waves heavenly sutra technique was, it could not break into the purple light. "Your sister!" Xianxia roared as a golden tadpole-like character gradually condensed in his hand. It was the same one he had seen in the passage of Mount Meru. He did not understand the meaning and rules of it, so he only roughly condensed it and let it shine in his hand. Bang! He struck out with all his might, passing through the thick purple chi and hitting the cauldron. In an instant, a golden light shot out from the top of the cauldron, and the patterns on the body of the cauldron became even more vibrant. The surrounding purple gas gradually dispersed and began to shoot out rays of golden light. It was a dazzling sight. The three ancient characters on the body of the cauldron of mountains and rivers, also appeared more and more ancient. After Xianxiao's palm landed, he felt a huge backlash that almost crushed him. However, he was in the divine realm tablet, and any power was limited by the rules in the tablet. When the recoil reached his body, it dissipated directly. Now, Xianxia was overjoyed to see the cauldron of mountain and river activated. He hurriedly summoned the purple and green chi and placed them into the cauldron. After that, the materials in his ring spread out in the sky again. Instead, he threw in all the materials that he found pleasing to the eye. In an instant, more than half of them were consumed, and there was not much left. Finally, he pointed at the extremely weak stone beast, which had stopped in the distance, and slowly flew towards the cauldron of mountain and river. The stone beast returned to its original body size in a short time. However, the earthen yellow color on his body had become extremely dull, and he appeared listless and dispirited. "If we throw him in like this, he'll really die," the demonic dragon said in a deep voice. "You talk too much," Xianxia snorted. "If I truly wanted to refine him to death, why would I need to waste so much effort to create that dead pig cauldron?" He focused his gaze, and with a thought, streaks and streaks of yellow light appeared above the cauldron of mountain and river. They were emitted from a small dot and grew bigger and bigger. They were half the size of a fist. After the small dot appeared, the entire space was distorted to a certain extent. With the small dot as the center, it pressed down. It was as if an endless weight was directly bending the plane. Even the cauldron of mountain and river below was affected by the power. However, it did not move forward. Instead, it retreated. It seemed to be intelligent enough to avoid the power. Within the ball of light was a small piece of the earth's growing soil, a priceless treasure. With the living earth protecting his heart of stone, he won't die no matter how he refines it. As for how far he can go, that will depend on his luck. When the stone beast's exhausted body entered the large cauldron, The earth's growing soil also fell down with it. The cauldron of mountain and river seemed to have sensed the power of the breathing earth and became excited. It was colorful like the center of fireworks. The colors covered the sky and lit up the entire sky, extending into the distance. As the light shone down, a warm feeling spread in all directions, giving off a sacred and inviolable feeling. This by Xianxia was stunned by the huge phenomenon. He had been an alchemist for so many years, but he had never been able to produce such a large-scale phenomenon while refining. It was as if he had entered a world of blurred colors. Not only him, but the demonic dragon, Duanyu, Yujilin, and the others who were trapped in the steel all turned their eyes in one direction at the same time, and they all saw the light of the purple cauldron. The dragon had followed Xianxia for many years, and although he did not know anything about magic, he had seen a lot. Could it be that this cauldron is also a supreme-grade profound-level weapon? It was only then that Xianxia came back to his senses. He shook his head and said, "I don't know, but how could there be so many transcendent-grade profound-level weapons in the world? The only thing recorded in the history of the continent was Noah's ship. However, this phenomenon really does exceed that of an ordinary 9th-tier purple cauldron. You've never used such a peerless treasure before," the demon dragon said worriedly. "Will the small stone be dangerous?" He and the stone beast both came from Mount Meru, and they seemed to have a very close relationship with the latter. Even if the latter didn't have much spiritual consciousness, at least they were from the same hometown. For countless years, he was a companion. Xianxia grinned and said, "I don't know. I'll leave it to fate. Fortunately, I wasn't the one in there." The demonic dragon's face darkened. Although Xianxia said it in a relaxed manner, he was very worried in his heart. He seemed to have no idea where to start with this mysterious cauldron. "Fuck you. Don't tell me you're refining inside?" The light on the cauldron of mountain and river changed unpredictably, as if it was following some kind of rule. From time to time, all kinds of strange lights would flash out, but the strange phenomenon of each light was across the vast sky, illuminating the heaven and earth. "Can't you fucking keep a low profile?" Xianxia was a little dumbfounded. He cursed a few times, but there was no reaction. But no matter what, he was once a 9th-rank existence. After a moment of contemplation, he began to display a set of extremely simple movements. It was the most basic refining technique, the 36 forms, and the 12 forms of flying flowers and falling snow that he had created himself. All the refining techniques in the world were derived from these most basic techniques. These 48 basic refining techniques contained all the alchemy techniques that all the alchemists in the realm of heavenly martial arts could comprehend. Perhaps the size of the art was not as simple as the 48 basic techniques, but these were all the rules that the experts of this world had comprehended after countless years of accumulation. Sure enough, with every move Xianxia made, the cauldron of mountain and river seemed to be affected and changed slightly. Even so, Xianxia was still very nervous and had no confidence at all. Fortunately, there was the breathing earth inside, which should be able to ensure that the stone beast's heart would not be refined. After all, the soil of breath was the mother of the earth, which evolved all things. Its level was even higher than the true phoenix fire. He really did not know what in this world could refine such an existence. Furthermore, he also noticed that the light emitted by the cauldron of mountain and river did not seem to be as simple as light. The constant changes seemed to contain some kind of rule. This discovery shocked him greatly. In this world, the only existences that could bear the weight of the rules were those legendary transcendent grade profound armaments which had surpassed the 9th grade. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Did he get another transcendent grade profound level weapon? But how was this possible? There was only one item recorded in the history of the continent, and now it had become a street stall. Moreover, he gradually understood that if he wanted to refine a transcendent grade profound level weapon, he had to master the corresponding deity tier spiritual art. Where would he find the deity tier spiritual art in this empty cauldron? They might have been lost in Mount Meru. Without the divine art, it could only be an ordinary purple cauldron. It was even worse than an ordinary cauldron that could be controlled at will. Xianxia felt dizzy, and his throat was a little dry. He pushed away these distracting thoughts and began to immerse his body and mind into it. He developed the 48 basic techniques and tried his best to control the cauldron of mountain and river to avoid any accidents that he could not control. After an unknown amount of time, the light emitted by the cauldron of mountain and river began to converge. It became smaller and smaller, as if the refinement was nearing its end. Xianxia's face turned white as well. Although he was in the Divine Realm tablet, the consumption was not something he could bear at will, and it was far beyond his imagination. If it was outside the Divine Realm tablet, there was no need to think about activating it. Unless one had a divine art, it was absolutely impossible. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous rumbles came out from the cauldron of mountain and river. As the light disappeared, the golden light disappeared and turned back to purple chi. It stopped moving and floated in the void. It turned back to the dead pig. It was dead, as if it was never alive. Xianxia breathed a sigh of relief as well, and he released his aura. At this moment, a wave of wholehearted energy gradually gathered in his body from all directions, constantly filling his body and meridians. His dantian had also undergone a certain change, becoming more abundant and powerful. This power was not the power of the rules of heaven and earth in the Divine Realm tablet. Instead, after he had activated the cauldron of mountain and river, he had broken through the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing and finally stepped into the Six Directions realm, a martial grandmaster. When other people broke through a major realm, the biggest problem was not the accumulation of vital chi, but the comprehension of martial arts. This was the main reason why martial artists were eliminated layer by layer. The accumulation of yuan chi could be achieved through continuous cultivation, but martial arts comprehension required great wisdom, comprehension, and even luck. This was unless one could find the most precious treasure in the world, the martial Will Dao fruit. After taking it, one could directly comprehend all the martial essence of that major realm and break through with irresistible force. But for Xianxia, his understanding of martial arts had long reached the peak of the martial emperor realm, and what he lacked the most was the accumulation of primordial chi. And because of his constitution, the amount of heaven-earth yuan chi he needed to break through every star and realm was several times, or even dozens of times, that of ordinary martial artists. Although his progress was already incredible and incomprehensible in the eyes of ordinary warriors, Xianxia still felt that it was as slow as a snail, and he was very dissatisfied. The demonic dragon flew over and said with lingering fear, "Is little Shur still alive? You're asking me?" Xianxia rolled his eyes at him. "Who should I ask?" He beckoned with his bare hand, and the cauldron of mountain and river began to spin and fly back. He patted the cauldron, and a rhythm spread out from it. A ray of light rushed out from it and shot into the sky. Then the cauldron of mountain and river turned into a miniature form, flew into Xianxia's hand, and disappeared. The demon dragon and Xianxia hurriedly looked up at the light and saw a black sphere floating in the air, like a piece of coal. "Turned into ashes?" the demonic dragon exclaimed. Xianxia was dumbfounded as well. "Oh my God! Where's my breathing earth? Can't be gone, can it?" At this moment, the black coal in the air started to move slowly. It was like a Rubik's Cube spinning in different directions. It was as if it was combining. Every time it spun, its size would increase by a bit. Furthermore, the color of its body was constantly flashing. Just like the cauldron of mountain and river, it was colorful and extremely gorgeous. Soon, it stretched out its arms and legs, and a stone beast that was completely different from the previous one appeared in front of the two. The two of them were completely stunned. The stone beast was now only half the height of a man, and its body was round and clumsy. Its limbs were very short and thick, and its shape was unusually cute. Other than the blank look on his face, he had completely changed. "Why are you so kawaii?" What made the two of them dizzy the most was that one of the sesame-sized eyes was purple, while the other was green. The demonic dragon madly circled in the air for a while before saying in a daze, Can this look be used for fighting? Does he still have the strength to fight?" Xianxia wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said in embarrassment, "I don't expect him to fight anymore. I just hope that my breathing earth hasn't been refined, right? With a thought, he sent an order over. The stone beast's eyes glowed with purple and green light, and its round belly swelled up again. Its face became extremely uncomfortable, and it turned brown. He roared and spat out the small piece of breathing earth. It flew out of his body and floated in the air. After this process, the stone beast's body changed again. However, its appearance did not change. It only shrank a few times, from half the height of a person to the size of a basketball. That round belly and the head had completely turned into a treasure gourd. Xianxia stared at the breathing earth for a while, then suddenly cried out, "Damn it! It's so much smaller. Some of it has really been refined. How is that possible?" The demonic dragon was shocked. The living earth was a supreme treasure that had existed since the creation of the world. How could it be refined? Could it be that the little stone absorbed it? Xianxia's heart stirred as well. He stared at the stone beast and gave an order. "Now, attack me with your most powerful attack. Let me see if you've become stronger." Purple and green gas burst out of the stone beast's eyes, cutting through the sky like two sharp swords and piercing through Xianxia's body. Xianxia's heart trembled. The sword chi of the purple shadow Xianxia sword had actually been refined into the sharp chi in his eyes. Even as a fifth-tier alchemist, he felt his spiritual sea shake. Immediately after, the stone beast's adorable face turned ferocious. It bared its fangs and roared loudly, causing the surrounding space to tremble and show signs of collapsing. The sound of stones grinding together could be heard from his entire body. At this moment, his body size continued to increase. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a giant and returned to some of the domineering appearance he had before he was refined. He roared and threw a punch. The wind from the punch was so overbearing that it caused the air pressure to explode continuously. All kinds of spiritual pressure made sharp hissing sounds, and there were purple and green chi lingering around his body. His entire huge body appeared in the purple and green chi, and he was invincible. The demonic dragon's eyes were filled with joy as it said, "So domineering, so handsome." Xianxia was overjoyed as well, but there was also a hint of horror in his eyes. Under the punch, he could clearly feel that the power of space around him was constantly being squeezed, and it was about to collapse. The peak of a martial emperor. He's definitely beyond the peak of a martial emperor. Xianxia could clearly sense the power of the punch, which was far beyond the peak of a martial emperor, but the aura of the stone beast was still that of a martial emperor, which was a little difficult for him to understand. He gently stretched out his hand, and the rule force directly gathered in front of him, freezing the stone beast's full force attack, making it unable to advance any further. "What's going on?" the demon dragon asked. "I also think that this punch has long surpassed the martial emperor realm, but why is his aura still that of a martial emperor? And why does he not have the domain power that a martial honor should have?" Xianxia did not say anything. He could not explain the situation. He directly gave the order for the stone beast to withdraw its fist. The ferocious look on the stone beast's face immediately melted away, and it returned to its cute and silly appearance. Its body size also shrank from a giant to the size of a basketball before it stopped. "Your whole body is like a gourd." Xianxia looked at him and said, "But when you punch, you're like a guardian deity, indestructible. I'll give you a name. I'll call you the Gourd Little King Kong." He thought for a moment and said, "Demonic beasts usually have very low intelligence, and it's very difficult for them to learn human martial arts. I'll teach you the simplest, but most practical move-a-draw fist. I wonder if you can comprehend it." Suddenly, the idea of letting demon beasts learn martial techniques came to Xianxia's mind. Since demons could learn martial techniques, why couldn't demon beasts? Although there was a huge difference in their intelligence, it should not be a problem to teach some of the simplest things. The calabash little King Kong was best at swinging his fist and smashing people, which had the same effect as the King Kong fist. He could communicate with the gourd little King Kong through spiritual thoughts. He immediately imprinted the essence of the King Kong fist into the gourd little King Kong's mind. Although it was the most elementary martial arts technique, under his understanding as a martial supreme, he was able to deduce it very thoroughly. In fact, the most basic martial technique contained the most basic laws of heaven and earth, but it could only be understood after a certain realm of comprehension. The gored little King Kong's face immediately revealed a puzzled look. It stood there in a daze, motionless, like a statue. Its distressed color and furrowed brows were vividly imitated. The demonic dragon swallowed his saliva and said with a bitter smile, "I'm afraid you're the first person in history to teach demonic beasts martial arts." "Not necessarily," Xianxia said. "Some powerful demon beasts will gradually gain intelligence as their strength continues to improve. For example, Yao Jinliang's Year beast's intelligence was not below that of an ordinary human. So it must have mastered an extremely high level of martial arts. It's also said that if a demonic beast can reach godhood, it's extremely possible for it to take human form, making it invincible against those of the same cultivation level." The demonic dragon sneered disdainfully. "Demonic beasts entering the godly state? Stop dreaming. After the martial sovereign realm, the most important thing was the comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. With the intelligence of demonic beasts, it was basically impossible for them to enter the godly state. Moreover, there are no records of any human who has reached the godly state in the history of the continent, let alone demonic beasts." "It's up to you," Xianxia said with a smile. "It's up to you. There are indeed many outstanding talents in the history of the continent, but the number of outstanding figures still depends on the present." The demonic dragon's heart skipped a beat. The human in front of him was no less powerful than any of the great figures recorded in history. He suddenly found Xianxia staring at him with a smile, and he was taken aback. "Why are you staring at me? Your gaze is strange." "You can see that?" Xianxia asked in surprise. "You can see that? You've been with me for so many years." He grabbed at the air and a force immediately bound the demonic dragon, pulling it towards him. The demonic dragon had a bad feeling and struggled to say, "What do you want to do?" But in the divine realm tablet, no matter how he struggled, it was useless. "I finished refining the gored little King Kong," Xianxia said with a smile. "Now I'll naturally start refining you." "What? You bastard!" The demonic dragon was enraged. "You want to refine me?" In addition to anger, there was also a trace of fear in his heart. Xianxia looked at him with no malice on his face, only a teasing look. "Do you remember that in the western region, there's a big sect that has a very magical cultivation method?" The demonic dragon's face was still filled with anger. His brows were furrowed, and his pupils suddenly shrank as he cried out, "Are you talking about the soul battle technique of the Soul Devourer clan?" "That's right," Xianxia said seriously. "I've noticed this technique a long time ago. Can greatly increase a martial artist's combat power." Although the flaw was also very obvious, the Soul Devourer race had relied on this cultivation technique to become one of the 7 major forces on the continent. "And you are precisely the best material to cultivate this soul battle technique." The demonic dragon's expression turned silent, and the anger and fear on his face gradually disappeared. He pondered and said, "Do you know that this may affect your soul power cultivation base, and it will be a great obstacle for you to recover to the 9th-tier alchemist realm?" "Of course," Xianxia said. "I wouldn't have refined it in the past." But now, the deeper he understood the great expansion divine technique, the more he could understand the profoundness of soul cultivation. "Even if I cultivate that soul-based technique, it won't cause me any substantial harm. Besides, don't forget that I still have the Kunwu divine tree." The demon dragon's miniature form gradually grew larger as it slowly swam around Xianxia, seemingly hesitating. "What are you hesitating for?" Xianxia asked with a smile. "What are you hesitating for?" Demonic dragon's face was filled with desolation as he sighed. "Forget it. I've been your sword spirit for so long. So what if I become your beast soul? Besides, I'll be the one who benefits the most this way. Even you don't care. What am I even more afraid of?" Xianxia nodded slightly and said, "I said that I would help you rebuild your body and return your freedom. From now on, you shall be nourished in my soul." He made a few hand seals and formed a green circle in front of him. It was covered with all kinds of strange symbols and emitted a soft light. The symbols were actually in the form of demonic beasts. They were extremely lifelike as they ran around the circle. Suddenly, spots of white light flickered on Yunxiao's body, and an image that looked exactly like him walked out of it. It beckoned at the demon dragon and said, "Come over!" The dragon was very cooperative as it slowly passed through the green circle. Yunxiao's phantom reached out a hand and slowly placed it on the dragon's forehead. A white light appeared on both of them at the same time, growing stronger and stronger. The dragon's forehead slowly penetrated Yunxiao's palm, and its body gradually sank into it. Yunxiao's real body and his shadow frowned at the same time, and a strange look appeared on their faces, as if they were not used to it. Soon, the demonic dragon's body was completely in his palm. The shadow stretched out its fingers and made a hand seal in the air before gradually returning to its body. Yunxiao grunted lightly and began to quickly perform incantation gestures. Golden tadpole-like characters emerged one after another, and the Great Expansion divine technique appeared in the sky. Each of these golden tadpole-like characters seemed to contain a different law within it. Up until now, although he had seen dozens of these characters, he had only truly mastered a limited number of them. However, these few words were enough to benefit him. At this moment, the demonic dragon was slowly moving forward in his sea of consciousness, trying to merge into the deepest part of his soul. Yunxiao sat cross-legged in the sky quietly, but beads of sweat the size of beans were rolling down his forehead. He was obviously in great pain. The perverted part of this soul battle technique was to absorb the soul of a demonic beast and integrate it into one's own soul. From there, one could obtain a part of the demonic beast's power, and in battle, one could display the demonic beast's ultimate skill. This way, not only would there be a huge increase in strength, but the two would also share soul power. Therefore, the Soul Devourer clan kept a large number of high-level demonic beasts in captivity. They would take the souls of the demonic beasts and integrate them into their own souls according to the strength level and talent of the disciples. This way, it could allow the martial artist's cultivation base and soul power to increase by several levels in an instant. However, the disadvantage was also very obvious. It was very difficult to separate it after fusing with a beast's soul. If they were forcefully separated, the two would suffer soul injuries at the very least, or even die on the spot. The Soul Devourer's common method of extracting beast souls was to manifest the beast souls and shatter them into pieces. Even though this would result in severe internal injuries, at least the martial artist would be able to keep his life. However, after losing the beast's soul, his soul was greatly damaged, and it was difficult to merge with it a second time. Therefore, the choice of a beast's soul was very important. It was basically a one-time choice, and one would have it for life. The disciples who were extremely talented would be fused with higher-grade beast souls after they had reached a certain cultivation. The reason why the demonic dragon said that he would benefit more from it was because he shared the soul power attribute. As a soul and a demonic beast, he couldn't cultivate the soul refining technique of humans. He could only let time pass and slowly recover his soul. He wasn't even confident that he could completely recover before he died. But it was different after sharing his soul power with Yunxiao. He could recover his strength through Yunxiao's Great Expansion divine technique. Although becoming a beast soul was an extremely humiliating thing for a true dragon's descendant like him, it was a good thing that the sword spirit had been doing it for so long, so it didn't matter. Soon, Yunxiao's face gradually twisted in pain. He suddenly shouted, stood up, and threw a punch. The clothes on his arms instantly turned into dust. A colorful fist light streaked across the air, and a dragon's shadow faintly appeared in the fist light. On his bare arm, the shape of a demonic dragon appeared. It emitted a green light as if it was a tattoo. Not bad, the initial stage of the fusion has been completed. Your punch just now was at least as powerful as a martial emperor's. The demonic dragon's voice came from the depths of his soul. The key to soul battle techniques is still the soul fusion technique, which seems to be divided into many levels. You and I have already completed the initial stage. I can enjoy the nourishment of your soul power, and you can also use my power. Yunxiao had felt a great force pouring into his soul from the punch just now. Now, even if he was barehanded, He was confident that he could fight a martial emperor with just his cultivation of a one-star martial grandmaster. And as the fusion continued to deepen, the power he could use would also become stronger. At the same time, the demonic dragon was recovering faster and faster. This was definitely a win-win situation, but the headache was how to separate in the future. They didn't care about this anymore. They just had to take one step at a time. After fusing with the demon dragon, Xianxia began to cultivate quietly. He had not stopped refining the immemorial heavenly essence. Although they were in the divine realm tablet, they still felt a little overwhelmed. The great expansion divine technique that had appeared in the sky had completely fused into his body. His body emitted a faint golden light, constantly nourishing his soul power. After a few hours, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his gaze flashed like lightning. With a thought, he disappeared from where he was and suddenly appeared in front of the three people from the Temple of Holy Fire. When the three of them saw him suddenly appear, they were all startled. One of the men's face instantly turned pale, and a green light flashed in his hand. Xianxia stared at the ring in the man's hand and said, "What was that thing just now?" The man's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he said, "No, nothing." "You're very disobedient," Xianxia said. "You're very disobedient." He pointed his finger down, and the ring on that person's hand emitted an intense light. With a bang, it exploded, and a large number of things appeared in the sky. There's quite a lot of good stuff." Xianxia waved his hand with a smile, and all the high-grade items were put away. One of the round objects fell directly into his hands. It was actually made up of many parts and was not a simple profound-level weapon. In the center of the round object, a pointer was constantly shaking. He frowned and said, "A sensor? What an exquisite, profound-level weapon." The three people's expressions all changed drastically, revealing looks of fear. With a flip of his hand, Xianxia put the ring away and disappeared from where he was. It seems that Yinan is indeed a master in making supreme-grade profound-level weapons. This kind of sensor can actually travel through space and reach here. In the next moment, Xianxia appeared in the room of the inn. He spread out his divine sense and immediately sensed several powerful auras pressing down on him, and one of them was a martial supreme. Several men suddenly appeared in the room. There were 7 of them in total, and most of them were martial emperors. However, the auras of 2 old men made Xianxia feel extremely suppressed, and they were undoubtedly martial venerables. After the 7 people's eyes swept over him, they didn't care about him at all, as if they didn't regard him as an existence at all of them minding their own business and investigating their surroundings. A handsome young man was holding an identical sensor in his hand, frowning as he looked at it. "What's going on? It's clearly here, but why is there no one?" A martial royal realm expert who looked like a middle-aged scholar also looked around and said, "Could there be something wrong with the sensor? Or did the 3 of them escape into the void?" One of the 2 old men who made Xianxia feel extremely uncomfortable snorted with a few sparse white hairs on his head. "There's no one hiding in the void within 1,000 meters." The few people believed his words without a doubt. The handsome young man walked up to Xianxia with a frown and said, "Young man, did you see 3 men with unfathomable cultivation?" Xianxia found it funny and shook his head. He was already sure that these people were from the Temple of Holy Fire. He did not expect Rabbit to come to him on his own accord. However, those 2 martial honors seemed to be very powerful and he could not deal with them. The handsome young man's worry grew even heavier. He turned around and asked the 2 old men, "2 venerable lords, what should we do now?" These people from the Temple of Holy Fire seemed to have been away from the world for too long and were somewhat ignorant of the world. The thin-haired martial honor elder frowned and said, "There's something wrong with this young man." He stared at Xianxia for a while and said slowly, "He didn't show any signs of panic when he saw us come in. He was neither humble nor arrogant, and his eyes were as calm as water. Also, at his age, how could he have the cultivation of a Wuzong? Especially the last part." Even he himself was shocked, and his eyes immediately widened. The other 6 people were also shocked. They all looked over with disbelief. A person's external appearance could be changed, but under a martial artist's divine sense, one could directly sense their bone age. This was absolutely impossible to fake. It seems that I have to check out, Xianxia said with a wry smile. I've only been here for a short time, and I've been disturbed one after another. What do you mean? The young man asked in surprise. Could it be that you've seen those three before? How dare you lie to me? He said angrily, his face darkening. His aura instantly pressed over and locked onto Xianxia as he snorted. Tell me everything you know, or else? I'm not lying to you, Xianxia said with a smile. I did see three men. However, their cultivation is only at the level of one-star martial emperors, so they're not unfathomable. The handsome young man was taken aback. He had thought that Xianxia was only a one-star martial grandmaster, and even if he saw the three men, he would not be able to know their cultivation base, which was why he said that they were unfathomable. Where are the three of them now? They're guests at my house, Xianxia said with a cunning smile. They're here as guests. The handsome young man's mouth was wide open. He did not seem to understand. The Temple of Holy Fire had always been reclusive in their cultivation. They rarely moved around the continent and had very few contact with people, so they were somewhat clumsy in communication. Young master, there's obviously something wrong with this kid. Why are you wasting your breath on him? The middle-aged man strode forward and tried to grab Xianxia. He was in charge of the affairs outside the hall and was experienced. Naturally, he would not be as stupid as the others. Xianxia's pupils constricted, and he immediately realized that the handsome man in front of him was the young master of the Temple of Holy Fire. When the middle-aged man made his move, he also moved. Pupil technique moon deficiency. He directly used a spiritual attack, and his eyes instantly turned into a blood moon. His body grabbed at the handsome man. How could the young lord of the Sacred Fire Hall have known that the other party would launch a sudden attack? His experience was limited to begin with, so he fell for the attack in an instant. A sharp buzz went through his head, and he was dumbfounded. He was caught by Xianxia and held hostage. What do you want to do? A few voices rang out at the same time, and the other 6 people from the Hall of Holy Fire turned pale with fright. Their faces were filled with anger and killing intent as they stared at Xianxia. Especially the middle-aged scholar. His body suddenly stopped, and his hand that was raised in the air also froze. He saw Xianxia smiling at him in a friendly manner, but his fingers were clasped on the young master's throat. As long as he touched it lightly, he would definitely die on the spot. I should be the one asking you this question, right? Xianxia laughed. First, you barged into my room for no reason. Then you questioned me for no reason. This big brother even wanted to bully me for no reason. And now you're asking me what I want to do. Can I swear? Quickly release the young master. How dare you offend the young master? You have already committed a capital crime, and your crime is unforgivable. Another old martial honor said in a deep voice. He had been standing there quietly without saying a word. He was dressed in gray linen clothes and his entire body was in tatters, like an ascetic monk. However, the faintly flickering aura on his body was even more powerful than that of the other dry-haired, revered martial artist. When the middle-aged scholar heard this, he immediately felt dizzy. These people were usually reclusive cultivators, so their words were straightforward. Who would let him go with such words? Xianxia also felt that these people were so innocent that they were a little cute. He smiled and said, Since you've already committed a capital crime, you can't be forgiven. Then I'd rather die than find a scapegoat. I'll kill this young master first before I die. It'll be a worthy death, and a scapegoat. The hemp garment revered martial artist was shocked and hurriedly said, Stop! Although you can't avoid the death penalty, as long as you let the young master go, I can still grant you an intact corpse. The middle-aged scholar finally couldn't bear to listen any longer and hurriedly said, Little brother, don't be impulsive. As long as you let go of the young master, we won't hurt you. We'll definitely let you leave safely. The hemp garment martial honored realm expert frowned and seemed to be a little unhappy. In his opinion, how could those who violated the young master be spared from death? Moreover, he had even allowed him to leave safely. This was too outrageous. However, the affairs in the Temple of Holy Fire were usually handled by the middle-aged scholar. The old man snorted and did not say anything more. "Let me leave safely? This is my room." Yunxiao's eyes bulged as he said, "Each and every one of you is stronger than me. If I let him go, wouldn't you all charge at me and kill me in seconds?" "I'm not that stupid." The middle-aged scholar raised his hands to the sky and swore, "I swear to the heavens that as long as you let the young master go, I will not pursue any responsibility." His face was solemn and he looked very serious, but he was sneering in his heart. "Even if I don't hold you accountable, there will be others who will." Looking at his serious face, Yunxiao could not help but laugh and say, "It seems that all of you are simple and honest people without any ulterior motives. Let's sit down and have a good talk. Perhaps both sides will gain something." He pointed at a square table in the room and said, "Big brothers, please take a seat." The few of them felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't tell what was wrong, so they sat down as told. "What exactly do you want?" the hemp garment revered martial artist asked. Yunxiao glanced at the handsome man in his hand, who was staring at him angrily, revealing his white teeth and smiling. "I heard that you have the In key?" Swish! The 5 people who had just sat down instantly shot up, each of them revealing a shocked expression. Their killing intent spread out, and the atmosphere in the entire room suddenly became extremely tense. The handsome man who was held in his hand also turned pale. "Aya, don't be nervous, don't be nervous." Yunxiao waved his hand and said, "Sit down, everyone. Let's talk openly and honestly." The south of the city was in a mess now. Who knew how many forces had heard the news and rushed over without even asking for confirmation? Now that Tang Jie has fallen into the hands of the Skeleton Mercenary Corps, they are the king of the earth here. It is impossible for you to save Tang Jie or exchange the Yang Qi. Unless he wants to. Unless you cooperate with me. He grinned. "Humph. You're just a 1-star martial grandmaster? Who do you think you are? You actually want us to cooperate with you?" The bald, revered martial artist elder was furious and shouted, "Let go of the young master and tell us how you know about the In key. We'll wait for the young master's decision." Yunxiao's eyes turned cold as he said, "Is your brain damaged again? Your young master will die if I stop taking the medicine." He exerted a little force in his hand, and the sound of bones breaking came from it. Then Yunxiao's finger pressed down slightly. The handsome man's mouth was wide open in pain, and his eyes were filled with fear. "Stop!" The bald old man was shocked and shouted to stop him. He didn't dare to speak anymore, but his eyes were filled with anger. Yunxiao's eyes swept over the 6 of them one by one as he said coldly, "Although you're simple and unadorned, you're not cute at all. If there's anyone else who will fall ill again, I hope that they can take some medicine now. Otherwise, if your young master is killed by you, don't blame me." All 6 of them glared at Yunxiao, but they did not dare to say a word. "That's good," Yunxiao sneered. "That's good." He turned the handsome man's head around and said, "I heard that the key was made by the peerless martial sovereign Yinantian. TSK, as a loyal fan of Yinantian, I really want to see the treasure left by him so I can admire it." The handsome man felt his throat relax. The grip on his throat was no longer so tight, and he could speak again. However, even though many of his bones were broken, he still felt an unbearable pain in his throat. He said stubbornly, "Just kill me. Don't even think about getting anything out of me. You have a backbone, I like it." "But," Yunxiao said coldly, "if you want a backbone, don't even think about it." He exerted more force in his hand. Ka-ka. A few more pieces of his hyoid bone were shattered. The handsome man's face could no longer maintain its elegant appearance. It turned red, like a duck that had its neck grabbed. His body stiffened and he didn't dare to move. In addition to the pleading look in his eyes, there was also deep resentment. Turpat was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. The person in front of him looked young and inexperienced, but in fact, he was experienced and vicious. He was really afraid that the other party would accidentally kill the young master, so he no longer dared to underestimate him and hurriedly said, "Little brother, Stop. Didn't you just say that you wanted everyone to work together? I do want to cooperate, but many people don't agree, Xianxia snorted. Your young master doesn't want to cooperate either. Since you also know about the Yin key, we won't hide it from you, said the earthen jar with a troubled expression. This treasure was the key to finding and opening Noah's ship. How could everyone accept that you asked about the Yin key as soon as you came up? When it came to cooperation, shouldn't they be on a fair and equal basis? Let the young master go first, then we can have a good talk. His words were extremely sincere, and his face was full of hope, giving people a very reliable look. Xianxia smacked his head and wailed, I'm afraid of pig-headed teammates. He pointed behind the jar. The 5 people all had cold smiles and anger on their faces. They wanted to kill him right now. Cut the crap, Xianxia said. Answer every question I ask. If you fall ill again, you'll die. As soon as the word die was uttered, his pupils shrank. The profound look in his eyes made everyone's heart tremble and their faces turn abnormally shocked. Even the 2 martial honorables were affected, and they didn't hide their aghast expressions. This wasn't a gaze that a young man should have. They suddenly had a feeling that this young man would really do what he said. He would kill the young master if he was dissatisfied. Where is the Yin key? Where's Noah's ship? Xianxia asked the 2 most critical questions. The jar knew that he couldn't avoid it, so he answered, The Yin key is indeed on us, but Noah's ship is still uncertain. But the young master can sense that if you kill the young master, I'm afraid no one in this world will know the whereabouts of Noah's ship. It was supposed to be a big secret, but in order to avoid Xianxia from killing him, he had to tell him. Xianxia gave the handsome man a look and was convinced. The jar might lie, but the other people's expressions were too innocent, and they didn't hide their emotions. So you came to the Gentle Song Forest just to meet with Tangjie? Why didn't you choose a safer place? Wouldn't it have been better to find a sunny beach or a beautiful village? Why did you have to come to this chaotic place? Xianxia asked the biggest question in his mind. At this moment, the gazes of Tranche and the others all fell on the handsome man. The handsome man's face was ashen. He gritted his teeth and said, Because I sense that Noah's ship is in the demon land. As expected, Xianxia knew it. He had the same guess, but he could not prove it. Now that Yi Nanshan's descendant had said so, he was right. He frowned and said, The demon land is so big. Without the ability of a martial supreme to cross the void, even a martial supreme would have to fly for more than 10 days to reach the end. You can sense the exact location? Also, who else knows that you have the ability to sense things? It was also very important for him to ask this. If the various superpowers knew that someone could sense Noah's ship, they would have long since sent their experts to capture him and use him as a guide. It was impossible for the 2 martial honors and a few martial emperors to be able to survive until now. As expected, the handsome man gritted his teeth and shook his head. It seemed that he had done a good job keeping it a secret. He was lucky that such a big pie had come to his door. It seemed that having such a weak and pushy young face was still very advantageous. Xianxia felt proud of himself as he said with a smile, What's the exact location? The handsome man was silent for a while before he said, At present, we only know that it's the north of the demon land. This sense is gradually strengthening. Perhaps Noah's ship has been silent for too long and wants to summon the descendants of our ancestors to collect it. His eyes were filled with hope and joy. Don't be so smug, Xianxia said in a speechless manner. You want to take Noah's ship with your little strength? We're just lucky that it hasn't been leaked on a large scale yet. Otherwise, the entire demon land would be filled with martial supremes in less than 3 days. You wouldn't even be able to get in. The handsome man and the other people's expressions changed drastically, each of them looking very serious. What Xianxia said was true. What was Noah's ship? If the news of the only transcendent-grade profound-level weapon recorded in the history of the continent were to be leaked, the entire continent would be in an uproar. At that time, even the holy region would not be able to stop it. In addition, how could the saints not covet such supreme treasures? Even if they're martial sovereigns. Without the ship key, no one can open Noah's ship. The handsome man seemed to be unconvinced and snorted coldly. "Oh right, I almost forgot about it if you didn't mention it." Xianxia smacked his head, then stretched out his hand and said with a smile, "Where's the key? Where was he? Take it out and let me study it." The handsome man almost fainted from anger. He hated himself for speaking out of turn, but he stubbornly said in anger, "The key is a precious treasure passed down from our ancestors. Only the direct descendants of the Yi family can use it. You despicable man. I would rather die than give it to you." The rest of the people also looked angry. The descendant of a peerless martial sovereign had actually fallen into the hands of such a small figure and suffered such humiliation. Xianxia, on the other hand, did not take it seriously. Times had changed, and there was no eternal king. Under the immortal state, everything was just an ant. "If you don't hand over the key, I'll leave it with you," he snorted disdainfully. Everyone was stunned, unable to react in time. The handsome man also said awkwardly, Didn't you want to snatch it? Why don't you want it anymore?" Xianxia had nothing to say to these people's simple-minded minds. With a fierce look on his face, he said ferociously, "Since you've said so, I'll take it from you." The handsome man felt dizzy again and wanted to slap himself a few times. "Little brother, may I know which force you belong to?" What was his intention? "As long as the target isn't Noah's ship, we can consider cooperating." He had long discovered that Xianxia was not simple, and at this moment he was even more certain. "I'm very interested in Noah's ship," Xianxia said. Everyone's faces darkened when they heard this. It was no wonder. No one would believe that they were not interested in such a precious treasure. "However, Ingluo, I'm an alchemist," he continued. "I don't want to own Noah's ship." Even if the news wasn't leaked, the entire continent would be shocked when Noah's ship appeared. At that time, whoever possessed it would be making an enemy of the whole world. "I may be conceited, but I'm not stupid enough to fight all the martial artists in the world alone." The 7 people's expressions also became stern, and their expressions changed greatly. They hadn't thought about this problem before. They were only anxious to recruit Noah's ship so that they could restore the glory of the Temple of Holy Fire and rise again on the continent. "Don't worry, everyone," the handsome man said. "After we get Noah's ship, we'll immediately return to the Temple of Holy Fire and activate the sect-protecting array left by our ancestors. No one will know." Only then did everyone's expressions turn for the better. Clearly, they were extremely confident in that sect-protecting grand array. Xianxia shook his head and sighed inwardly. These people are really ignorant of the world, and their IQ is getting lower and lower. If they knew that you had Noah's boat, not to mention the sect-protecting array, even if you had the ability to descend the power of a realm and the rules of heaven and earth, they would all be blasted to smithereens. Even if he hid in the divine realm tablet, Xianxia was not confident that he could protect Noah's ship. That thing was really too hateful. In the world, except for a few famous superforces, no one could keep it. So from the beginning, his goal was not to own Noah's ship, but to disassemble it and study it. In the end, he had to sell it. "That's good," Xianxia said. "We have the same goal, but we don't have any conflicts. After obtaining Noah's ship, I'll study it for a few days and then give it to you. How about it?" The handsome man frowned. He felt that it was inappropriate to let him study it for a few days. Afraid that they would say something to anger this fiend, Turpot hurriedly said, "That's good. May I know which force little brother is from and how confident you are in this operation?" "In the Lightsong Forest," Xianxia said with a smile. "There are only 2 other forces that can compete with the Skeleton Mercenary Corps. I'm the captain of the rookie mercenary group. I'm in charge of getting Tang Jia out, and you're in charge of finding Noah's ship." He gave them a condition that they couldn't refuse, and they were all overjoyed. Really? They had also explored the headquarters of the Skeleton Mercenary Group for many days. There were many experts in the Dragon's Pool and Tiger's Den, which was why they had been delayed for a long time. And as more and more mysterious forces appeared, he started to feel anxious. The 3 one-star martial emperors had been outside inquiring about the situation. The 7 of them had become nervous after they had disappeared, and they had come out to look for them. With a confident look, Xianxia smiled and said, "In this gentle song forest, if my rookie mercenary group can't do it, even a marshal supreme can't do it. Good. If you can really get Xianxia out, we'll cooperate with you." The handsome man seemed to have forgotten that his neck was still in her hands and said excitedly, "Indeed, only a rookie mercenary group is most likely to accomplish this." Since the conversation was going well, Xianxia naturally had no reason to take her as a hostage. After letting go, these people from the Temple of Holy Fire didn't blame him. Instead, they were all happy. The problem that had been troubling him for many days had finally been solved. It seemed that Xianxia and Noah's ship were already in front of him. After getting to know each other, they exchanged names. Then, he found out that this young master was Yi Nanshan's great-great-grandson, Yi Fan. The two martial honorables were also descendants that had been passed down for generations. The bald one was called Qi Guang, and the one in hemp clothes was called Feng Zhu. There were a few other people who also reported their names. In this way, the cooperation could be considered to have begun. "By the way, young Master Yun," Tranche suddenly said, "did you see the 3 martial emperors we had earlier?" These people were so engrossed in their conversation that they had forgotten the purpose of their visit. It was only when they heard Xi's question that they remembered and stared at Xianxia. Xiao's heart sank, and he did not know how to answer. He couldn't say that he had killed or thrown the Divine Realm tablet, right? He couldn't release it, and it was obviously inappropriate to say that he hadn't seen it. Since they were working together, they couldn't go back on their word. He said in distress, "Just now they wanted to attack me, but they were already captured by my men and brought back to the headquarters of the rookie mercenary group. Quality is more important than quantity for this operation. These 3 one-star martial emperors won't be able to help much, so let them stay in the headquarters for a while." This lie was quite reasonable and everyone believed it. Just as they were about to discuss how to save Xianxia, a wave of energy suddenly came from outside the room. The entire inn shook and a huge explosion came from the distance, heading towards the headquarters of the skeleton mercenary group. The power of this explosion was so great that the aftershock spread thousands of meters away, shocking all the experts in the southern part of the city. The might of a martial honor. Feng Zhu's face was solemn as he stared at the explosion. "I felt the power of an extremely strong domain. There must have been 2 martial venerables fighting just now, and it was a life-and-death battle." Turpat was also shocked. Could it be that someone broke into the skeleton mercenaries? Is it also for Xianxia? At this time, there were cultivators flying around in the sky from time to time. Some hurriedly flew away for fear of being caught in the crossfire, while many deliberately flew closer for unknown purposes. What do we do? Would someone else have the upper hand? Yi Fan became anxious. If Xianxia is saved by others, what should we do? These people were indeed lacking in planning and strategy. Xiao's pupils constricted slightly, but he soon returned to normal and said, "Calm down, I'm here, what are you afraid of? That person is definitely not there to save Xianxia." "Why? How do you know?" Everyone was frowning and looking at him in disbelief. Even Tranche did not quite believe it. He said, "Do you know something?" "It's exactly because I don't know anything that man is not going to save Xianxia," Xianxia said with a smile. "I'm sure he's not there to save Xianxia." This time, the few of them were even more confused. If Xianxia's value is known to others, Yi Fan's value will definitely be discovered, Xianxia explained patiently. "One of you has the Yang key, and the other has the Yin key. Do you think it is easy to save Xianxia? Is it easier to catch Yi Fan? Don't think that you're hiding in a secret place. I can say for sure that your every move, including eating, drinking, and shitting, is under the close surveillance of the 3 great mercenary groups." The reason why he was still safe was because no one knew of Yi Fan's value. Therefore, Xianxia's value is only in his identity as the young master of the 4 extremes sect. Realization dawned on Tranche, and he said, "I understand. Therefore, if someone really went to save Xianxia, it must be someone from the 4 extremes sect." "That's right," Xianxia said. "If the 4 extremes sect can save Xianxia, it won't do us any harm. You've asked him to come here to negotiate a deal, and things have just gone back to square one. However, I'm sure that it wasn't the four extremes sect's doing. Everyone felt a little dizzy. They had not fully understood what had happened just now, so how could he be sure that it was not the four extremes sect? If the four extremes sect is going to save them, Xianxia said with a smile, they will definitely make a thunderous strike and be fully prepared. Then the battle should be one wave after another. You see, after the tremor just now, there was no more sound. Therefore, the one who attacked just now must be a single martial honor. His pupils narrowed, almost 100% sure that the person just now was that freak Yuan Sun. It seemed that the skeleton mercenary group's defense was stronger than he had imagined. No wonder Mu Wu had not returned. Although Yuan Sun was a freak, he was also a famous assassin. They were best at sneaking in and assassinating, and they never got tired of it. With his body as a martial honor, if he wanted to sneak into a base, even the 7 superpowers would not be able to find him. However, he had appeared in the skeleton mercenary group and started a battle. It was unknown if he was still alive. Who broke in alone? Asked Turpot worriedly. Young Master Yun. When are you going to gather the experts of the rookie mercenary group? He had a worried look on his face, afraid that Tang Jie would be captured if he was too late. Yifan suddenly shouted, "Look! There are many experts going over." Everyone looked over and saw several rays of light flying into the headquarters of the skeleton mercenary corps. From the aura coming from the distance, there were at least 2 martial honors. Not long after, a few more people flew in. After waiting for a while, there was no movement. It was as if the people who entered did not encounter any obstacles or danger. At this time, several powerful auras rose from another corner of the city's south and rushed in. Xianxia cursed in his heart. Yuan Sun's matter seemed to have caused a chain reaction, and many forces were afraid that others would take advantage of them. Even though many people didn't know the real situation and didn't even know what they were going to do, they still swarmed in. "Young Master Yun," Yifan said in a deep voice, "shouldn't we make a move as well?" "No hurry." Xianxia shook his head. "Let's wait and see." "Let's see." Feng Zhu couldn't hold it in anymore and sneered. "So many people have already gone in. If we wait any longer, we won't even be able to get any of Tang Jie's dregs." "Young Master, now that Tang Jie has become the target of public criticism, this person doesn't have the ability to save him. We'll act on our own." Yifan couldn't make up his mind. He looked at the pot. After all, Turpot was the most experienced one among them, and everyone was more convinced of his abilities. Before the jar could speak, Xianxia snorted coldly and said, "Don't worry. They didn't find Tang Jie." "How did you know?" Feng Zhu's eyes widened in dissatisfaction. He didn't like a young boy showing off his intelligence in front of so many adults. This time, without Yunxiao's answer, the jar said in realization, "Not bad." So many experts had gone in, but there was still no trace of fighting fluctuations, which proved that Tang Jie had not been found. "It might not be better for us to go. It's better to wait here." "So that's how it is. Pottery, you are indeed the think tank of our Temple of Holy Fire." Feng Zhu praised, and he rolled his eyes at Xianxia. Xianxia patted his forehead helplessly. It was not that he wanted to show off his intelligence or show off, but these people really had a hard time. If it wasn't for the fact that the Inqi was with these people, he wouldn't have come with these pig-like teammates. Soon, the shockwaves of a fight spread, but they were very weak. They should be small friction. Xianxia glanced at the crowd, who all looked eager and restless. Even the 2 martial venerables' breathing gradually became rough. Then he laughed and said, "It's almost time. Let's go in." It seems that they are living in peace. It seems that the situation has changed. It is. It's been so long, and they haven't made a move yet. I'm afraid the situation has gone beyond our expectations. Qi Guang could no longer hold back. "What do you think, young Master Yun?" The jar looked at Xianxia and asked. After spending so much time with these people from the Temple of Holy Fire, he had thought that he was very intelligent, but now he realized that he was actually just a tall man among the short men. "I can't find anything else," Xianxia said. "Let's go. I'm afraid things might change. It's impossible for such a large group of skeleton mercenaries to not have any movements." "I told you to go in." Feng Zhu snorted. The 8 of them instantly flew forward and landed in the direction of the skeleton mercenary group's base. The courtyard of the headquarters was empty. When he spread out his divine sense, he found that many experts were wandering around like headless flies. Qi Guang and Feng Zhu's figures kept flashing, which turned out to be a very brilliant movement technique. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with surprise. Yinanshan's inheritance was indeed not simple. Perhaps he had underestimated these people. He began to pay attention. In a few moments, the 2 of them stopped in the small courtyard with a serious expression. Qi Guang said, "Young lord, other than a few weaker martial artists, there isn't a single expert in the entire skeleton mercenaries. There are also a few foreign experts, the ones we've been monitoring these past few days." Yunxiao looked up at the sky and saw a few more beams of light falling. Those people were dressed in strange clothes. When they glanced at the people from the Hall of Holy Fire, and their eyes fell on Qi Guang and Feng Zhu, they were clearly taken aback, and a look of fear appeared on their faces. But soon after, he snorted and began to search the headquarters of the skeleton mercenary group. Could it be that Tang Jie has already been transferred? Yifan said with a serious expression. It seems that Tang Jie is very loyal, Yunxiao said with a smile. I can't believe he didn't tell you your secret. Otherwise, the people from the skeleton mercenary group would have come to find you and you wouldn't have to worry about not seeing them. Feng Zhu said angrily. You still have the mood to joke at a time like this. The entire mercenary group disappeared as if they had seen a ghost. Where are we going to find Tang Jie now? He bulged his eyes and gave Yunxiao a fierce glare as he said, If you have the ability to find out where they went, this old man will truly be convinced by you. I don't know where they are now, Yunxiao said with a smile, but I'll know soon. Really? Yifan was overjoyed. Although he felt that it was unlikely, for some reason, Yunxiao had a temperament that made him trust him very much. This kind of temperament made people feel very comfortable and kind, worthy of his trust. You? Feng Zhu was stunned for a moment. He said in disbelief, If you can really give me an explanation, I can grant you supreme glory and consider taking you in as my disciple. Is acting up again, sob. Come with me, Yunxiao muttered. His figure headed east. Although the few of them were puzzled, they still followed him closely. Suddenly, a voice resounded in the sky. Everyone, don't be like a headless fly. Everyone came here because of that rumor, right? Right now, the skeleton mercenary group has no one other than a few dregs. Why don't we work together and think of a way? We might be able to find something. After a pause, the voice seemed to express its sincerity. I have a time-fixing plate in my hand. Maybe I can help. Everyone turned to look in the direction of the voice, and a few of the experts revealed looks of great joy, saying, Time-fixing plate? There's hope now. As soon as they finished speaking, a streak of light appeared before them. An old man flickered with light and his presence was released. He appeared before them without holding back at all. He swept his gaze over them and smiled. I'm Zhou Chun. Who are you? When they heard this, their expressions changed. One of them cried out, Zhou Chun from the king of the southern region's sword sect. Zhou Chun chuckled and revealed a satisfied expression. I didn't expect you martial emperors to know me. What did you mean when you said there was hope? The few of them did not look too good, as if this person was a taboo. Ha. Zhou Chun, look at how scared you are. A green light flickered in the courtyard as a few more warriors walked over. One of them was a green-haired man who was wearing a dragon-patterned belt. He smiled and said, Old man Zhou, it seems like your reputation isn't that great. Zhou Chen's face turned cold as he snorted. Old Monster Kong, is it because your Thunder Fire Palace has too many disciples that you rushed over to be cannon fodder? The Green Light Man Kong Wu laughed. It's not certain who'll be the cannon fodder. If that rumor is true, then we might all be cannon fodder. Zhou Chen's face was cold as he said coldly, You talk too much, Old Monster Kong. I don't like what you're saying. You don't want me to sew up your disgusting, stinky mouth, do you? Kong Wu did not mind at all and said, Don't be so fierce in front of me. If he had the ability, he could be fierce in front of those people in the Merchant Union later. As far as I know, the 7 permanent members of the Business Alliance have all sent people here. However, Brother Zhou Chen's cultivation is unrivaled. Naturally, you won't be afraid of them. All 7 members of the Merchant Union are here? Zhou Chen's face changed. The key has always been in the hands of the Merchant Union, Kong Wu sneered. If even you know about it, how could their insiders not know? It's not just the Merchant Union. I'm afraid those 2 families have also heard the news, not to mention the other small fries in the western region. Zhou Chen's expression changed greatly. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes as he said in shock, "Is this true?" Kong Wu's expression turned serious as well. He said, "Even you and I can get the news, let alone these 2 families. It was just that this matter was a little mysterious, and not many people believed it. There have been similar rumors in the past, not only in the western regions. In the end, it was still a farce. There was even one time when the sanctuary was alarmed, but there was still no result. My Thunder Fire Palace is only here to watch the show." Zhou Chen was moved. "Are you talking about the time when 7 martial emperors died on East Com Island? The major power that spread the news was eliminated overnight." However, Ing Luo, he thought. But even the people from the 7 merchant alliances are here, so at least it's not a baseless rumor. Besides, we're only acting according to the circumstances. If there's such an opportunity, we naturally can't let it go. However, if the situation gets out of control, it's best to back off. He understood that he could only try his luck and not force it. The various forces searched the skeleton mercenary group but found nothing. When they heard Zhou Chen's voice, they all gathered together. A small courtyard was filled with experts. Yun Xiao and the others from the Hall of Holy Fire also changed their direction and followed the crowd to join in the fun. They attracted the most attention. After all, most of the other forces were from the western region and knew each other. Even if they didn't know each other, they had at least heard of each other. But Yun Xiao and the others were all new faces, especially Feng Zhu and Qi Guang, who did not know how to restrain their auras, as if they were afraid that people would not know that they were martial venerables. Zhou Chen's gaze swept across the crowd, paying special attention to the people from the Hall of Holy Fire. Then, he said to the martial royal realm experts, "Everyone, if there's anything you need my time-fixing plate to help with, just say it." He wasn't afraid of having too many people. Although it was more troublesome to have too many people, it was still relatively safer. The martial royal realm experts seemed to be very reluctant to say it. However, under the pressure of the crowd, they soon compromised and said dejectedly, "One of our companions was captured by the skeleton mercenaries. When they found him, he had no blood left. If it weren't for some items and symbols on his body, we wouldn't have been able to recognize him." The martial royal realm expert's face turned slightly pale. He seemed to have recalled the tragic state of his companion's death, and his stomach churned. The others also frowned. Killing people was just a matter of nodding their heads. Which of these people wasn't a fiend who had killed countless people? However, this kind of cruel act of draining the blood of a human body was still very shameless and infuriating. "My companion has the bloodline power of the ancient demonic Fox clan," the martial emperor continued. This was probably the reason why the skeleton mercenary group wanted to capture him. In the past, in order to figure out the secret of his bloodline, our Scarlet Dragon Mansion had also taken some of his blood for experiments. Everyone looked at him with disdain and cursed in their hearts. "Fuck you, and you said that he drew blood, but you also used your own companion as a test subject, fuck." The martial royal realm expert from the Red Dragon Mansion felt a little embarrassed when he saw the disdainful looks from the crowd. He blushed and said, "I still have some of that blood on me. If Lord Zhou has the time-fixing plate, you should be able to find the person who took the blood." Zhou Chen frowned slightly and said, "The higher-ups of the skeleton mercenary group are more likely to do this kind of thing. In that case, it was really possible to find them. Try cutting it." A green light flashed in his hand, and an ancient square metal object appeared in his hand. It was covered with flower-like symbols. The martial emperor took out a glass container filled with thick black blood, which seemed to have been processed. As soon as the blood was poured into the star positioning compass, it began to boil. The blood mist condensed into a small round blood bead on the star positioning compass and began to roll. It was a miraculous sight. Everyone watched quietly, and Xianxia was also interested. This time-fixing plate was indeed a very strange profound-level weapon, and the method of making it had long been lost. As long as an item with an obvious personal aura was placed on it, this aura could be extracted and pointed to all the existences of this aura in the surrounding area. It was the best weapon for tracking and searching. There it is! Zhou Chun cried out in joy. The blood bead on the star positioning compass rolled to the east, and a needle stood up straight and trembled continuously. The feeling was extremely strong. Brother Zhou Chun, where does this point to? Kong Wu asked in surprise. How far away? Zhou Chun looked to the east, and everyone's hearts trembled. That was the Demon Plains. It's at least 100 miles, Zhou Chun said, staring at the time-fixing plate. I can't estimate it any more accurately. 100 li. Everyone was shocked. This distance wasn't much for Yao Yuan, and it should be considered short. However, for a martial artist it was enough to catch up, even if the hope was slim. The aura of the two martial honors just now was clearly just a moment ago. How could they travel 100 miles in an instant? Could it be that there are so many martial honors in the skeleton mercenary group? It's very possible. The fluctuations from the battle just now were most likely a diversion tactic. In fact, they've already quietly moved out. Sister, such a big gang actually used such a small trick. Do they have any moral integrity? Brother Zhou Chun, please lead the way. Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I have to get it. Zhou Chun nodded and flew out of the city with the time-fixing plate. Almost everyone rose into the air and followed behind Zhou Chun. Dozens of powerful auras swept across the air and rushed toward the east with murderous intent. The warriors in the Gentle Song Forest all looked up at the sky in horror. Some of the braver ones also flew up and followed from a distance, wanting to watch the show. The expressions of the people of the Hall of Holy Fire were extremely ugly. They didn't expect things to get so out of hand. This would increase the difficulty of obtaining Noah's ship by several levels. Seeing that everyone had left, Yifan said, "In any case, we must get Noah's ship. For the first time in thousands of years, Noah's ship has been summoned. It belongs to our Temple of Holy Fire." Yes, the Temple of Holy Fire had been silent for thousands of years, and this moment had finally come. They must not fail. Even if I die, I must obtain Noah's ship for the young master, the earthen jar said decisively, as if he had already made up his mind to die at any moment. The rest of the people were also hot-blooded and excited. They wanted to sacrifice themselves right now to block the muzzle and blow up the bunker. Xianxia laughed at an untimely moment and said, "Hold on, everyone. Don't be anxious. Sit down and drink some herbal tea. We'll recalculate the amount." Woof! Your sister's herbal tea. If you had not delayed everyone for so long, I would have rescued Tang Jie long ago, Feng Zhi said angrily. Yifan was calm, and he had a good impression of Xianxia. "Young Master Yun, what do you think we should do now?" "I think we should catch up," Xianxia said. "I think we should." Tisk! Everyone was speechless and revealed a look of contempt. Yifan and Taokan frowned. Taokan took a step forward and asked, "How should we chase?" "Of course we can't chase them blindly like they do," Xianxia said with a smile. "We should take a shortcut." Yifan was overjoyed. "I forgot that young Master Yun is from the rookie mercenary group. You should be very familiar with the terrain around here. Where should we take a shortcut?" Feng Zhu said. "No." That Zhou Chun had the time-fixing plate in his hand, which was why he was able to track them down. "If we don't keep up with them, we'll be completely lost." Yifan was also worried when he heard that, and he stared at Xianxia with a questioning look. "What are you afraid of?" Xianxia laughed. "What are you afraid of?" The purpose of the skeleton mercenary group should also be for the Noah's ship, but who in this world really knew the specific location of Noah's ship? Of course it was you, Yifan. Let's go to the right place first. If they go the right way, we'll naturally meet them. Feng Zhu felt that it made sense, but he immediately shook his head in denial. What if they go the wrong way? Wouldn't that mean we won't be able to meet him? Yes. Yifan seemed to be enlightened. He smiled and said, "If they go the wrong way, that means they can't find Noah's ship. We don't have to worry. Who cares where they go? What does it have to do with us?" "Not bad." Yunxiao smiled approvingly. Yifan was also a very smart young man, but he had been with these old men for a long time and had not come into contact with other people, so he had become more and more honest and dull. Now that he was exposed to such a big event, he had become smarter. So that's how it is. The young master was indeed intelligent. There's hope for the rise of the Temple of Holy Fire. Feng Zhu immediately felt gratified and sighed with emotion. The rest of the people were also extremely happy, as if they had seen the rise to the peak of the continent. Yunxiao said, "Everyone, please have some herbal tea first, then follow me." He slightly spread out his divine sense, feeling the fluctuations in the air, and began to search the headquarters of the skeleton mercenary corps. He walked in a straight direction, passing through water and tearing down any house he saw. Soon, he arrived in front of an unremarkable side hall. "Young Master Yun, this is Wufu," Yifan said in surprise. "That powerful fluctuation just now must have been caused by a Martial Supreme," Yunxiao said solemnly. "I'm sure it's a Martial Supreme. Under the surveillance of so many forces, it was impossible for him to disappear for no reason. As for Zhou Chen's analysis, it was impossible. There were only two possibilities. One was that the headquarters had a secret passage. The second possibility is that they used a teleportation formation to leave." He smiled and said, "The secret passage can only lead to the outside of the city. It's impossible to reach 100 miles away so quickly." Then, Yingluo Yunxiao raised his hand and threw a punch as he shouted, "Then there's only one possibility. If I'm not wrong, the teleportation array that the skeleton mercenaries used to leave is in this side hall." Boom! As the fist force landed, the side hall suddenly exploded. A huge teleportation formation appeared. The array was also emitting a strong spiritual energy, and the destruction of the side hall spread to everyone. Yifan said in shock, "It really is a teleportation formation, and this spiritual energy is clearly used not long ago." Feng Zhu was completely dumbfounded. He stared at Yunxiao blankly, scratched his forehead and said, You can even deduce the location of the teleportation formation?" This time he truly felt that he was weak. Yunxiao smiled and said, "Hurry up and get on. The spatial landmark we just teleported to is still on it. I'm afraid it will disappear if we stay here for too long." In fact, he didn't know the location of the teleportation formation, but he had caught the extremely sensitive fluctuations of the formation with his divine sense. Ever since he had fused the demonic dragon into his soul power had shot up to the 6th rank. The energy fluctuation of this teleportation array was extremely strong, and it was very obvious at a close distance. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire stepped into the array one after another. Yunxiao took out a large number of primordial stones and put them inside to operate the array. The spatial fluctuations of the last teleportation were still under his perception, and he immediately locked onto their position. The array emitted an intense light, and the 8 people instantly disappeared from the array. At this moment, Zhou Chun and the others had also flown several li away. The Light Song Forest was originally the gathering place of the explosive and crazy people. Most of them weren't afraid of death, but were afraid of not having any fun. Very quickly, a long tail followed behind Zhou Chun. There were hundreds of people, and the number was still increasing. They were all asking each other what this was about. Among them, the most annoyed ones were the people from the 7 merchant alliances, who had already infiltrated the city. The others might think it was fun or try their luck, but only they knew that the probability of Noah's ship appearing was extremely high. The entire demon land began to feel uneasy. Some of the demon beasts with premonition headed south one after another, as if they were trying to avoid something. Yunxiao and the people of the Temple of Holy Fire suddenly appeared in a certain space on the demon land. All 8 of them fell out of the teleportation and could not stand still in the air.